Walton and Pia behind her. They made me. Rob smirked. I am glad they do. A stable boy brought out Rob's stallion from inside the stable, a tall black horse already saddled. The stallion's muscles rippled from freshly groomed and its hooves on its powerful legs. From close range the warhorse looked tall and menacing, befitting for a king. Do you mean to take me riding, Your Grace? Myrcella looked uncertain at the horse. No way she could mount such a thing. Do you trust me? He asked as he stretched out his hand to her. She rolled her eyes and Rob grinned. That was not so ladylike. Your scepter will be disappointed. No, it was Walton. Like she could see Pia suppressing a giggle and Walton grumbles incoherently. Rob laughed. His teeth shone in the bright pool of light by the afternoon rays. They were neat and shiny, and she was mesmerized by the carefree laugh. Myrcella took his outstretched hand. Rob helped her climb onto his black stallion. Where are we going? It's a surprise. I don't like surprises. Every girl likes surprises, Rob replied as a matter of factly. I am not a girl anymore, she muttered to herself. No, of course you are not, princess. Rob gave in, looking up at her atop his horse. He sighed, running the long fingers through his auburn curls. Rob mounted the stallion to sit behind her. Soon she was engulfed by his body heat. He smells nice, too, which is a huge notice to the butterflies in her belly. Her back was on his chest and she tried to keep her distance, but Rob's hand on her shoulder gently led her to lean. She tensed at his touch. Relax, he said softly, mistaking her discomfort as fear. Have you not ridden on a warhorse before? No. Not like this. Myrcella shook her head. Isn't this too intimate? Myrcella threw a pleading look towards Pia, but the servant smiles encouragingly. Rob chuckled. Stop shaking your head. Your hair tingles. He scratched his nose. This is a bad idea, she blurted out. Put me down. Please. Too late now, princess. Don't worry, I won't let you fall. Rob kicked the stallion and soon they were galloping out the portcullis and into the woods. She waited for his hand to roam like Locke once did, but instead Rob kept his hands on the reins. Yet his shoulder and arms leaned towards her in a protective manner, unwilling to risk her slipping and falling from his horse. He only once seizes her waist, to keep her balanced, when the stallion leaped on a dead tree trunk. Grey wind howls in the distance. The direwolf emerged from behind a tree, sniffing, before running to meet them. The beast was fast, only a blur of grey. She couldn't perfectly catch up as Rob urged their horse faster to keep up with his direwolf. She had to hold on to Rob's arm. In a little while they are leaving the woods and into a prairie. As flat as a table, as wide as an ocean. There were no mountains or hills, nothing to block the breathtaking view of the horizon and huge fields of waving grass and wild flowers. She gasped at the beauty in front of her eyes. She knew that the Riverlands was fertile, but did not expect there would still be such green expanse before her eyes, untouched by war. Slowly, they were slowing down until it stopped completely in the middle of the prairie. The stallion neighed softly as his master pulled its rein. He dismounted easily, gliding down from the big horse with ease and grace. Myrcella turned so her stomach was against the side of the saddle and her legs were next to each other. She looked down doubtfully. Rob's stallion was just too huge and too tall for her to dismount easily. Reading her expression, Rob placed his hand on her waist again. Gently, he said. She slid down and plunged directly into Rob's arms. Heb held back most of her weight so she would not fall to the ground. As soon as she steadied her foot she withdrew from him, and didn't dare to see him in the eye. The prairie was glorious. She couldn't contain her excitement as she ran to meet the wind that caressed her face. The tall grass, thick and lush, rustling gently in the breeze. The sky was bright and blue, dancing merrily with white puffy clouds above their heads. Rows of pine and apple trees surrounded the prairie. Purple hyssops, white asters, harebells and buttercup flowers seemed to be competing to fill the prairie with vibrant eye-catching colors. Well. Rob ran after her. Beautiful, isn't it? Do you like it? He catches up with her easily despite his armor and the long sword hanging from his belt. I loved it, she exclaimed, and for a second their eyes met. If you keep running like that, I'd think you try to run away, Rob teased, but he sounded pleased at her enthusiasm. Myrcella stopped to catch her breath. Rob gave her a small smile. I like your smile, too, the thought came to her uninvited. They let the horse graze at its heart content as Myrcella sat in the middle of the field, collecting colorful flowers into a bouquet. Rob examined her from a distance, letting her be. How did you find this place? She looked up at him, still standing a few feet away. I thought you were busy with your lords and lieutenants, your grace, she meant to tease, but Rob looked serious. Rob's direwolf emerged from the woods and joined them in the prairie. Grey Wind greeted his master before padded to Myrcella and nuzzled at her hand. Do you believe me, if I say I saw it in my dreams? He asked back after a moment, watching Grey Wolf sitting next to Myrcella. The direwolf closed its yellow eyes, enjoying Myrcella's hand scratching behind its ears. What do you mean, you saw it in your dreams? I just saw it. Like I saw you that night. Myrcella realized he was talking about the night Grey Wind found her in the Red Fork. She had thought the direwolf was going to devour her back then. Sometimes I feel like I don't sleep, Rob continued. I was him. I ran with him. I see what he sees. We hunt together as one. He smiled at his direwolf. Do you think it is strange? I don't know what is strange anymore, she replied honestly. But I think it is nice. At least your dreams don't scare you. What about yours? If you sit with me maybe I'd tell, she said boldly, and Rob complied. As soon as the man sat next to her on the grass, Myrcella felt the butterflies in her stomach flutter again. It was meant as a tease, she never thought he'd comply. Well, he raised an eyebrow, waiting. She cringed. My dreams were not as fascinating as yours. I feel guilty all the time. I saw Sir Aris, the king's guard that was sent with me. I saw my family. Sometimes she felt stupid and vulnerable of telling him. Me. What am I doing in your dreams? Rob looked puzzled. Trying to kill me. You know I am going to keep you safe, right? Rob said softly when she didn't answer. Myrcella nodded. Yes, your grace. She cast down her eyes and continued making a bouquet while Rob took out a whetstone from the saddlebag and started honing his sword. For a while they were busy with their own commotion. When she didn't hear the soft rhythmic of stone hitting steel, she looked up to find he was already staring at her. What will you do when the war ends, your grace? She asked. It will be nice to take my sisters home. Almost a year since I last saw my baby brothers. I will need to prepare my people for the upcoming winter. Marry my betrothed, he replied, betraying no emotion as his blue eyes pierced her green ones. He sheathed his sword. Just back to normal life, I think. I hope you succeed and your betrothed make you happy, your grace. This time it was Rob who did not answer. It was like invisible hands squeezed her heart and tearing it to pieces. Realizing that he was promised to another woman, which if life did not say otherwise she could be that woman, somehow made her feel miserable. Have you met your betrothed? No. But Lord Free said I could pick any of his daughters or granddaughters. There was no excitement in his voice. Why are you running to Casterly Rock instead of Dawn? I don't want to get married without love. Only Uncle Jamie would protect me. Me neither. They lay on their backs, side by side, and let their eyes wander upward to the sky. A thick grey cloud came to cast shades on them. Grey Wind yawns, stood up and ran towards the woods. When I was leading a campaign in the fort, every time I saw buttercup flowers I think of you. She was surprised at the confession. She turned her head to Rob, but he lay still with his eyes closed. Your awful dreams. I wish I could take it all away, he said tenderly behind closed eyes. She was touched by his honesty and his kindness. How could she think of hurting him? The knife tucked behind her corset fit uncomfortably. She wanted to grab the knife and throw it away. Their arms lay straight down at their sides. If she extends her fingers she could touch his. I am willing to give everything to end this war. I even give anything if it can return your father. I am so sorry for my family's sins. Rob sighed. They continued to lay there on the lush grass, enjoying the weather. It is very peaceful here. Thank you, your grace, she murmured sleepily. Pleasure is mine, princess. His voice, too, sounded drowsy. Odd, Myrcella thought. I am sleeping with the enemy, yet here is more comfortable than any feather bed. Myrcella was half drifted away when she felt the first wet drop fall on her eyelid. She jerked awake instantly. "It's raining," she shouted as cold water suddenly poured from the sky. "I can see that." Rob shouted back, grabbed her hand and pulled her towards the trees. They ran as fast as their feet could take them on the damp soil, laughing as the water droplets showered their heads. Those drops were fierce and coming down as hard as the rain bore down mercilessly upon the prairie. In a few seconds the grass became muddy and her shoes glided, but Rob's firm hands on hers prevented her from slipping. He fared better than her as he was wearing his leather boots. "Oh my gods, what was that?" she yelped as they finally reached the nearest shadows of an apple tree. "The last of the summer's rain," Rob said, smirking. Myrcella shivered under her cloak. They were soaked as they ran to seek shelter under a row of apple trees at the end of the field. She could see Rob's curls were messy and damp, a few auburn strands stuck to his forehead. He carelessly runs his fingers through his hair. Myrcella swallowed and looked away as if Rob was doing something scandalous. Realizing she must be a mess too, she tried to tidy up her disheveled braid with trembling hands. "Your cloak is too thin," Rob mentioned as he observed her wet cloak. "Apologies, Your Grace, I forgot to bring a decent one from King's Landing," she replied indifferently, but Rob only chuckled. The cloak was indeed too thin to her liking in the Riverlands weather, with summer coming to an end. The black cloak was fastened across the front with a cord on her breastbone height. Rob's long fingers traced the cord and pulled until the bond was released and Myrcella's wet cloak fell to her feet. Rob reached to his own fur surcoat and unfastened the clasp that made an X on his gorget. Before she could say a word, Rob took off his surcoat and put the thick garment around her shoulders. The wolf's brown and black fur sewn on the top of the coat rubbed her cheeks, but Myrcella sank into the warmth. It has his scent too, and it was so intoxicating she almost felt herself drunk. He smelled of leather and freshly cut timber, intermingling with pine and new parchment combined. It was so heavenly she couldn't get enough of it. She found herself inhaling the aroma deeply as she stared into his eyes. He returned her gaze with equal intensity. She began, but soon forgot what she was about to say. She tried to lower her eyes politely, but instead they rested on his lips. The sky began to open, dark clouds moved to make room for the sun to peek through the clouds. A dazzling glare of orange and gold afternoon started to appear, stretches far and wide. It was the magic hour when the sun dyed everything in the color of a blazing hearth. The rain stopped as quickly as it came, clouds partially disappeared. Her back rested under the apple tree, beneath the shade of its branches and thick leaves. Rob stood before her, his hands rested on her shoulders. His auburn hair glows under the afternoon sun like a crown of halo. The sight of it filled her with a strange happiness she never felt before. "What if I want to keep you here, for myself?" he asked out of blue. "I am your hostage. I am at your mercy." Was that what he wanted to hear? No, he shook his head. "You are not my hostage. I said you are my guest, didn't I?" He did. Myrcella nodded. "Myrcella," he began after a while. "Yes," she asked, her heart pounding. For a while she did not realize he didn't use her title. "I am going to lead another campaign soon." Rob let go of her. As soon as his hands left her shoulders she felt a pang of sadness. Myrcella blinked her eyes. "He is leaving again. I will pray for your safe return, Your Grace." Rob smiles. All she wanted to do was to be drowned in his arms. "Thank you," he replied. "But you will come with me, Your Grace." Did she hear him all right? "Bear with me a little longer, will you?" He crouched on the clammy ground, his face tired but determined. "I want you to trust me." Notes. Though I loved Nell Tiger Free as Myrcella Baratheon, in the TV series, but Elle Fanning is my own personal choice for my Myrcella. Chapter 11. Chapter text. Therservant. Pretty Pia, it was the name people used to call her. Yes, she was pretty, at least she was comely more than other girls she knew. Once she dreamed of marrying into a good family, to a kind knight. Even though she grew up being a washerwoman like her mother before her, she never shied away from such a dream. All of that thanks to the Kingslayer, Jaime Lannister, whom she witnessed was raised to the Kingsguard and stood cloaked in all white by the last Targaryen king. Jaime was tall and muscular, a proud and handsome man with curled hair the color of beaten gold. His smile cuts like a knife. Pia always thinks Jaime was the knight in stories. She often dreamed about him, and then when she grew older she imagined it was to him she made love with. And she got laid regularly as men lined up easily to get into her skirts. She had the looks, the body, and the willingness to sleep with them. She never was picky. As long as she closed her eyes Jaime Lannister's face sprung to her mind. Pretty Pia, some meant to belittle, others perhaps compliment, though she never gave any thoughts. As years went by Jaime Lannister's face became a fading memory. When the Lannister troops took Harrenhal by force from her former liege, House went, she thought she'd seen Jaime again. Not that she hoped to strike any relationship with him, no, Pia always knew her place. She just wanted a glimpse of him, the handsome knight from her childhood. But there was no Jaime in the flood of men Tywin Lannister brought. There were horrible nights, though. They gathered women and children, separated them and gave them work to do. Men were mostly put to sword unless they were proven valuable like a blacksmith or carpenter. The pretty ones were separated again and at night she endured being used by the soldiers. They were never gentle. They were harsh, beating her, biting her, one even keen to slap her face during love-making. Pretty Pia was popular among the men. Men who wanted to fuck her could line up from dusk till dawn, but after the mountain smashed her face she became broken Pia. No one wanted to look at her. Once, she overheard men talking about how they'd fuck her only at night when her face became bearable. Not long after the liberation of Harrenhal by the joined forces of Stannis Baratheon and Robb Stark, Jaime Lannister himself came into Harrenhal chained on his stretcher. He was delirious from fever, his right hand was covered and bound into a bloody bundle that gave off foul odor. He was weak from imprisonment and chained mercilessly despite his wounds. Lady Went's Maester was slain by the Lannisters but there was this old man they called Qyburn among them. Pia helped Qyburn take care of Jaime, she put on fresh garments on him, cleaned his chamber pot, changed his bed sheets, and sometimes she fed him fish porridge. Jaime was in and out consciousness most of the time. When he was unconscious, Pia observed the scars and bruises all over his body. He was beaten up frequently by his captors. As soon as she heard women at the buttery cleaning a room in the Tower of Dread which was meant to be occupied by Jaime Lannister's niece Princess Myrcella Baratheon, Pia chose to offer her service as the princess's servant. All women refused to serve the princess since they were still upset from the Lannister occupation. Most rivermen have lost husbands, children, friends or someone they know who were slaughtered by Lannister forces. Pia might lose her childhood dream of marrying a kind knight, but it did not mean she cannot be near a girl who will be lucky enough to live her dream. It would be an experience itself, serving a real princess, rather than wasting her time washing clothes. Plus as a servant she is given a small room connecting to the princess's chamber to sleep. She felt safer sleeping apart from other people, especially from men who infiltrated her bed hoping to get into her skirt. Sometimes one or two who knew her previous reputation would try their luck. One evening a man took her refusal too personal and decided to force her. Fortunately the princess's guard was there to fend his fellow soldier away. "I heard what they did," Walton said in his gruff tone as she smoothed her clothes with trembling hands. His bearded face was plain like most northerners, but she recognized his kindness. "I am sorry that happened to you. It won't happen again." She was close to tears so she could only nod in thanks. He seemed sincere and most importantly, he did actually respect her. He rarely smiles. Yet now and then they'd struck small conversation about his home in the far north, about this Winterfell castle where he proudly served since a little boy, and his hope of knighthood. She knew Walton felt guarding the princess keep him away from battlefields where valor and knighthood lingers. He did it anyway for the sake of honor and loyalty to his king. "Are there many knights in the north?" Pia couldn't resist her curiosity. Walton and she were standing at the gate of the Godswood, where the princess was inside with King Robb and his direwolf. They had time to talk while waiting. "Not really," Walton answered, scratching at his beard. "We northerners aren't knights. Many lords are not knighted but there are exceptions. I know that House Marndale and Mormont have some knights. My uncle Roderick who served as Master of Arms in Winterfell is also a knight. My cousin Jory and I grew up dreaming of being knighted. But truth be told, not many knights in the north. And you want to be one?" "I? Why?" Being knighted means a man demonstrates bravery, loyalty, and devotion especially to his liege. Prestigious, too, though in reality I can't afford a knight's armor and war horse. Walton grinned. You're more brave, loyal and kinder than any knight I knew, she told him bluntly. Walton opened his mouth like he wanted to say something. Pia even thought he'd rolled his eyes at her, but no words came out and his eyes widened at her. It's true, she blushed. And life goes on in Harrenhal, a better one after the liberation. Pia liked to take care of Myrsilla's needs. Although there are other servants to help the princess, Pia preferred to take care of everything herself. She woke up at dawn to heat the princess's bath. If the princess wants to eat in her chamber, Pia would go to the kitchen to tell other servants to bring food. Even though later the princess didn't break her fast in her chamber, but rather joined in the main hall. Their days were spent pretty much peacefully. They sew and talk over tea. She loved her story about the king's court the most, how the women dress in rich velvet, hairstyles that were popularized by Myrsilla's mother, the inlay of gemstones and willow carvings on pillars that supported the Red Keep. Pia imagined it with awe. She'd then looked at the princess who sews in front of her, all smiles while she told her the story, and wondered if she ever missed all those things. I don't, Myrcilla answered plainly when one day she dared to ask the question. They were kind to me, of course, I am the princess. Now I realize that it was only on the surface. I don't really have a friend, or someone to really talk to aside from my little brother. But then he only sees 10 name-a-days and I want to protect him. My mother is perhaps the luckiest woman in 7 kingdoms, she is queen married to the king. But she is not happy, I know that. We wore luxurious and fragrant clothes. We always have plenty of food on our table. But everyone in my family was unhappy. The princess woke up early because she couldn't sleep. Sometimes from her small room she could hear her cry in the middle of the night. Both kings only permitted Myrcilla to visit the Kingslayer once, when she just arrived in Harrenhal. Pia knew the girl missed and in constant worry of Jaime's condition, yet there was nothing she could do. Every day she helped Myrcilla take her bath. Her golden hair shines even more as she combs diligently. They chatted lightly every time, moving and spending their days in routine. They spend a lot of time together. She learned about her and got to know her. To her, Myrcilla was humble and kind, smiling continuously at servants and guards who looked at her sarcastically, if not suspiciously. She praised every braid Pia made. She continued to engage Walton in conversation even when his reaction was cold and inclined to underestimate the young girl. Kindness sparked in the princess's smile, a gentleness Pia rarely saw in her life. For whatever reason Robb treated her honorably, Pia was grateful the princess was kept away and guarded by good men like Walton. Lannister's forces and her brother in the Iron Throne have caused a lot of suffering which inflict deep resentment on most rivermen and northernmen. They remember, and Jaime Lannister experienced it firsthand. Pia shuddered to recall what the soldiers and stable workers said when they talked among themselves about Princess Myrcilla. The young girl inhaled sharply as Pia pulled her corset tighter and helped her into a dress. With every evening Pia aided the princess undress and pulled her nightgown. Then suddenly Myrcilla didn't want her help, though she asked Pia to loosen her corset but proceed to get out of her dress on her own. Myrcilla thought Pia didn't know. It could be the reason Pia chose to turn blind eye to what the princess hiding under her clothes. She didn't know how Myrcilla could get the knife, but given the threats and lewd talk among the men, she decided not to ask questions nor tell Walton. She hoped she had something to hurt the Mountain when he took her by force. How stupid she was for saying no to the monster. When he smashed her face with his gauntlet fist, she could only lay frozen beneath him, while choking in her own blood, afraid for her meaningless life. She should have fought back and died. Every woman has the right to defend herself. And God helped any man who laid a finger by force on Myrcilla. She hoped the girl and her little knife would give him good resistance. Stannis will definitely kill all Cersei Lannister's children. He believed them to be bastards born of the Queen's incest with the Kingslayer. Martha whispered. I heard him himself when they talked. King Robb will not kill my princess. Pia argued. She is under his protection, he took her himself, not King Stannis. Martha shrugged. Say what you will, Pia. But hear me, your dear princess is a Lannister. Everybody knew it. Martha might have been very sure that Stannis would harm Princess Myrcella once he took the Iron Throne. However, Pia believed Robb will not let that happen. She knew the princess was Robb's hostage, not Stannis's. It must be so, because Stannis is going to King's Landing with the Kingslayer who is actually also Robb's hostage, Pia thought to herself. If not, why bring the princess to a Westerlands campaign, instead of the Old Lion's Heir? She had received an order that Robb will bring Myrcella when he is marching to Westerlands. Whatever reason or strategy was agreed upon by the two kings, Pia felt Robb deliberately brought Myrcella to prevent Stannis from touching her. Since yesterday the entire castle was busy with preparations to march. The main hall was packed with soldiers, so Walton advised Myrcella to break her fast in her chamber. Pia had gone to the kitchen to fetch bread, bacon, and cheese. She learned that the two kings placed several trusted lords and ladies in one another's forces. Lady Mormont, Lord Sewin and Lord Karstark are among the nobles Robb put into Stannis's, with Lord Durrandon, two of Lord Swan's sons and Lady Tarth put into Robb's. She had seen Lady Brienne of Tarth, heir of Lord Selwyn Tarth of Evenfall Hall. Just like Lady Mormont, she was unusually tall and muscular for a woman. Yet unlike the other warrior lady, the heir to the Sapphire Island wears full-bodied steel armor in brilliant, deep blue cobalt. Martha and several kitchen maids had to go back and forth from the kitchen to the room that was used by the two kings as a council chamber. Sometimes Stannis and Robb shut themselves up for days inside. The servants could hear their arguments, tired and tense faces, but there wasn't much to eavesdrop. A pretty woman clad in all red never left Stannis's side. At first she thought she must be his hand, until Martha said that she is Stannis's priestess. That explains why Stannis's sigil now contains an element of Allah, although Pia doesn't really understand the foreign religion. Brynden Tully was also never far from Robb's side, acting as his hand and master of war. They march with Robb's forces when the sun goes down. House Went owned several carriages and few survived the Lannister occupation. Yet no carriage for the princess to travel by reason of efficiency. Horse-drawn carriage required more maintenance and greater care, not to mention that it was also troublesome as a means of transportation during military campaigns. So a wagon was arranged as the princess's quarters during their marching. Myrcella didn't even look bothered as she sat in the corner inside the wagon, hands on her lap as Pia climbed in. At least the wagon is clean, and Pia tried to make the march comfortable enough for Myrcella by stocking up blankets and extra pillows. Walton will ride on his brown horse with other men next to their wagon. The girl sat huddled beneath a dark surcoat with brown-black fur, something she realized became Myrcella's habit every time she felt anxious. That surcoat belonged to the king in the north until a few nights ago. Pia remembered when she and Walton waited on the west stable until the sun had fully set. Robb's great stallion entered the gate with Myrcella curled up almost hidden under the thick surcoat and Robb's arms around her. They were damp and the princess's dress clung tightly to her body. No questions were asked, there were not many words exchanged between them when Robb helped the girl off his horse. Pia caught Myrcella's eyes lingered a bit longer on him as the man walked to different direction. The next day she shyly asked Pia how to clean the surcoat, which at that time was stained of dust and dry mud. She showed Myrcella the bathhouse where washerwomen also used as laundry. Just outside the stone bathhouse were wooden troughs. Walton helped her pour pails of hot water to the lye and white clay in the troughs. King Robb's surcoat was finely made, so Pia didn't retrieve the wooden bat to beat the cloth. Instead, she showed the princess how to wash the surcoat by placing it in the trough, part with the fur facing upward leaning against the side of the trough so it was not submerged in the water. The dirty cloth needs to be rubbed with soap, soaked, and then rub again before finally rinsed with warm clean water. She refused when the princess insisted on doing it herself, but let the girl try on rubbing the cloth with soap. As soon as the surcoat was dry, Pia delivered it to the king's chamber. She witnessed the young king's face soften when he laid eyes on the clean surcoat, but insisted that the princess needs it more than he. On several different occurrences she noticed how the young wolf's eyes often wandered to Myrcella. They seemed to stare right into her, but the princess hardly noticed. Who could blame him, when the princess shines as bright as the sun? She thought proudly. Even though it was rather strange, she thought the two of them gazed at each other when they thought the other was not looking. She now watched Myrcella closely as the girl wrapped herself with the king's surcoat as the wagon lulled them gently along the road. Since it was a military campaign in war between kings, Bringing a bathtub was too troublesome in spite of Myrsilla's station. The princess had not taken a bath since they left Harrenhal almost 7 days ago, but Pia didn't hear her complain. Highborn ladies often bathe with soap and herbs-oiled perfume, a luxury cannot be obtained by women in Pia's station. Lady Went herself used to soak in hot water every evening with lavender oil. She thought the princess would grumble, but the girl seemed relaxed and calm. One time they came by a well in front of a burned inn. Pia asked Walton to hold for a moment. She draws a bucket of water for the princess to wash her face. Myrsilla's face lit up upon seeing the fresh water. "Let me try to draw water too so you can wash your face with me," she had said. It was not the first time Myrsilla wanted to help. Her keenness was so great and she quickly followed the habits of the North and Rivermen. Pia taught her how to braid and sometimes they braided each other's hair. A thin layer of canvas served as their wagon's roof. Throughout the day sun rays penetrate into the wagon and at night the wind blows in through the loose fabric. As days went by the march penetrated deeper into the Westerland's border. "Where are we?" Walton shook his head every time she asked questions. They kept on riding and only stopped to hone the weapons and rest before marching again. On the 10th day Walton finally informed them that they would stop and set up camp. This time for how long they'd make camp he cannot be sure. She has never set foot outside the Riverlands and now they are surrounded by the mountainous Westerlands. "I am sensing we will attack soon," he said. "Are you going to ride off to battle?" "No. King Rob said my place is to protect both of you." "I am happy that you do," Pia admitted, warily glanced to a dozen men scattered not far from the pavilion they shared with Myrsilla. She felt safer knowing Walton will be with them. The princess's pavilion was set up using 2 poles and 12 ropes and stakes, the overlapping door closures providing privacy and protection from the wind. She slept side to side with her as Walton took his resting place just outside the entrance, hand on the hilt of his sword. It was a blessing that a vernal pond located not far from the princess's tent. The seasonal pool of water stretches 30 meters wide with a depth of a grown man's midsection. The crystal clear water was cold and the pond was well protected by pine trees and sagebrush. They waited until the sun set before they told Walton they were going for a bath. The water was colder then, but Pia didn't want any men to see the princess bathing. "Whistle if you hear or see anything coming close. And don't look. I will know if you do," she warned Walton, who rolled his eyes and grumbled as usual. "Just do your business and be quick about it." He sat behind a pine tree, his eyes scanned the land before him for any unwanted visitor. "And don't worry, I won't let anyone come to you." He is kind of sweet, Pia thought. She helped Myrsilla stripped from her soiled gown, decide to wash it tomorrow since they have made camp and proceed to undress herself. Both girls squealed excitedly as the cold water splashed on their skin and Walton had to hush them. They giggled at his annoyance. Soon, they swam into the middle of the pond and soaked their bodies in the cold water. It feels fresh after days of not washing themselves. Finally they could wash up the dirt and grimes from their journey. She had passed 25 Namer days but Pia has never felt so alive than now. Was it because she found a friend in her princess, or was it the warmth she felt in her heart every time she laid eyes on Walton? She has been a simple girl, did her work as best as she could and found little solace by sleeping around. Pretty Pia the washerwoman was a slut who was working her way through every night she met. What does she have now? Only emptiness and ruined teeth, used and beaten by every night she knew. Even her father who now rots in hell used to beat and hurt her every night. She did not want to pity herself. Broken Pia. Only 2 men treated her humanely. The first was her childhood knight, Jaime Lannister. She had come to his bed not long after he surpassed his fever. Crippled and bedridden as he was, Jaime still the most handsome man she had ever seen. And she wanted to give him little comfort she could offer, herself. Jaime gently refused and as she laid on top of him, naked. "Am I not to your liking, Lord?" she asked, her hand covering her mouth. "You can fuck me and I won't open my mouth. Not once. I swear I'll be good to you, Lord." "It's not that. You are one pretty lad," he said. "Truthfully. You are beautiful to me, but I can't. And it should be you to be treated well, not I." Perhaps Jaime saw the fear in her eyes or the little girl longing for a night inside her, scarred and scared. Yet she appreciates the righteousness in his voice. You need sweet words and gentle touches, girl. I am not the man to offer you all of that. She left his chamber heartbroken, but oddly hopeful. The second was Walton. Sullen as he was, but he made sure the princess and her were safe. He shooed away his bawdy comrades. He took care of her in his own way, helping her carry heavy things, shielding her every time they walked around the castle and now around the camp. He knew her previous reputation, no doubt, yet Walton never took any liberation on her. She learned that he was a simple man himself who lives to serve his liege. He seemed kind to her and she wondered, how does it feel to sleep with a kind man? Have you lain with a woman before? Pia teased him as Walton went with her to fetch the princess's lunch from the camp's cook. His face turned red as he glances anxiously around him. Thankfully no one was listening to their conversation. Why the sudden question, woman? He replied angrily. Do you have a wife and children? Bastards. No, no, and no. Why are you asking? He grew uncomfortable. Do you like women? I am not answering more questions. Walton shouted nervously and 2 or 3 heads around the bonfire turned to them. Do you? I like women, Walton grumbled. I like you, she said honestly. Do you like me? Walton grumbled, but she heard him mumble under his breath, what kind of imbecile that doesn't like you? She smiled without parting her lips, sliced a rabbit's thigh and put it on her princess's plate along with some peas and potatoes. She felt Walton's eyes glued on her back as they walked to Myrcilla's pavilion. She liked it more, lately. His rare smiles, the muscles she noticed on his chest and biceps when he lifted a bucket of water for her. She even treasured his brooding demeanor. Walton usually stood in front of the overlapping canvas door. But tonight it was not him who stood guard, which meant Walton was resting nearby. The princess's pavilion was set near an old oak tree, the trunk so big and wide, exceeding the width of 3 adult men lined up. Its branches are strong and shady. During the day it provided additional protection from the sun above the princess's tent. Pia found him sitting behind the tree trunk, hidden from view. Walton, she called. He was sleeping when she peered closer. Walton, she called again, though softly still, for the last thing she wanted is startling him. He stirred. Walton's eyes lazily started to roll open, but before she straddled his hips. What? He reached out to his sword, but her hand stopped Walton's movement as the other brought his face closer to hers. He tried to stand up but sunk dejectedly as their lips met. Pia, comma. She cut him off by kissing his lips again. He kisses back, fiercely at first, before tenderly brushed her lips with his. She half expected him to thrust into her roughly, shove her to the ground and took her right there, but to her surprise Walton let her ride him. His hands crept from her breasts to her skirt, slowly, too slowly for her. The girl, he started again, glancing towards Myrcilla's tent. Lady Brian is with her. We don't have much time, she whispered, lifting her own dress to the waist. Under his gamison Walton wears chainmail that covers his torso to thighs. The steel was cold to her bare skin as she straddled him and she shuddered. She rubbed the inside of her thigh on Walton's manhood. What are you doing? Suddenly he sounded irritated, withdrawing his hands from her thigh. I won't let them touch you again. And you don't need to give me anything in return. This is not about it. I want you, I want to feel you inside me. Do you want this? With me? For a moment she pondered what he meant, until she realized that Walton asked for her consent. As an answer she nodded, raising her hips again to sit right above his cock. Beneath chausses and undergarment she could feel him hot and hard. She led Walton's hand to her chest again. Following her direction he squeezed her breasts and buried his face there. Her breath started to quicken. The bodice she wears has an underbust design with shoulder straps and laces in the front, and Walton quickly loosened some of its ties to access her breast. He then fumbled with his breeches and soon Pia felt the tip of his cock on her opening. I am too old for you, Walton suddenly said, I could be your father. She felt angry then, she will not let him reject her. Nonsense. Kiss me again. He complied. Men she had been with never let her took control. They either fuck her from behind or from above her, pinning her with their weight. It was different with Walton. She slides down onto his lap, taking him entirely inside her. She could feel his satisfying size, hard and wonderful. He let her in control, asked her consent, but most importantly he thrust into her gently. She was already wet for him. It feels so good. She moans and Walton put a finger on her lips while thrusting into her, gently, ever so gently until she couldn't take it anymore and bucking her hips faster. He rocked her hips following her cue, nibbling on her neck. Swayed by the sensation, Pia put her arms on Walton's shoulders. They were covered by shadows of the night. Bushes shielded them from prying eyes as they tried as quiet as possible making love. The nearby tents were deserted, its occupants busy huddled by the campfire. "I'm close," Walton whispered to her ear. She was, too. Her climax made her shuddered violently and fell limp. Walton caught her, planting kisses on her face, her neck, her breasts. No one ever kisses her like that. She felt safe and happy in his arms. Walton tensed and a second later she felt him swell up and explode inside her. They sat there for a while, breathing into each other with her still straddling him. He hugged her still when she thought he'd send her away. "Thank you," she finally said, kissing his cheek. Walton looked at her as if he was seeing her for the first time. She saw tenderness in his grey eyes. It felt like she was whole again, like she was pretty Pia instead of broken Pia. Perhaps she even sees love. The warm feeling engulfed her from within was definitely stronger than just admiration or mere lust. But she had never felt love before. Whatever it was, the way he looked at her and the way his arms took her in, made the little girl in her wanted to continue curled up in Walton's arms. Several men passed by where they sat, talking noisily among them. She knew she must immediately return to her princess, too. "Just a moment," she thought as she snuggled to the crook of his neck. Dash. Pia Myrcella called softly. "Are you asleep?" "No, milady," she answered, though sleep almost claimed her. "Is something wrong?" She opened her heavy eyelids to look for her princess in the darkness of their tent. "Do you need something, milady?" "I'm fine," she whispered. "Do you know what is happening out there?" She bit her lip after the question and Pia sensing her distress. It was already midnight but the sound outside was still loud. Soldiers were busy sharpening their weapons, their horses rubbed and saddled, their grunts piercing through the tent. Walton said, "We'll attack soon, milady. But I don't know anything further." "How long did they make camp?" 3 days. "Was it already 5 days?" They kept her in the wagon and now in her pavilion most of the time for her safety. She was the king's prized hostage, after all. 4 days. Myrcella only communicated with her and Walton. She now has a habit of wearing the king's surcoat almost every time, not just when she is sleeping. "I know you must be worried for your family," milady, Pia whispered and she thought she saw the girl's eyes glittered with tears. "I worry about everyone," she admitted. "I have not seen the king for days." "Is he all right?" Pia found the question rather odd but she nodded. "He must be, milady. I can't sleep." "Are we going to war on the morrow?" "I think they are going to go this very night," Pia whispered. "Is King Rob going?" "He always is, milady," she answered and Myrcella bit her lip again. Pia rose from her sleeping pallet and glanced towards the tent's entrance to where she saw Walton's stoic shadow standing outside. She breathed a sigh of relief. Since they made love a few nights ago she always wanted to be near Walton. She felt selfish because she's glad Walton was assigned to be with them at the camp, instead of riding to the battlefield. "Shall I fetch you something, milady?" Pia offered but Myrcella's hand softly discouraged her. "No need, Pia. But will you pray with me?" "Milady. I wish there's a weirwood tree nearby." Myrcella muttered sadly. She was not sure by her request. She is not a religious person, never be. But Myrcella was already raised from her pallet while pressing Rob's surcoat onto her nightgown. Pia lit a few candles to provide better lighting. Afterwards she knelt clumsily following Myrcella's lead, bowing her head. Their hands intertwined with Pia awkwardly noticed how delicate the princess's hands are compared to hers. There is no weirwood tree, no statue or image of the 7 gods but Myrcella closed her eyes and a moment later she started to hum. It was the Song of the 7. Myrcella's soft voice fills the tent with sweet melodies, her tune dancing with the glimmering candlelight. The father's face is stern and strong, he sits and judges right from wrong. He weighs our lives, the short and the long, and loves the little children. The mother gives the gift of life and watches over every wife. Her gentle smile ends all strife, and she loves her little children. The warrior stands before the foe, protecting us where'er we go with sword and shield and spear and bow. He guards the little children. The crone is very wise and old, and sees our fates as they unfold. She lifts her lamp of shining gold to lead the little children. The smith, he labors day and night, to put the world of men to right with hammer, plough and fire bright. He builds for little children. The maiden dances through the sky. She lives in every lover's sigh. Her smiles teach the birds to fly and give dreams to little children. The 7 gods who made us all are listening if we should call. So close your eyes, you shall not fall. They see you, little children. Just close your eyes, you shall not fall. They see you, little children. She felt very peaceful that she wept. Chapter 12. Chapter text. The Queen Regent. She woke up to a wailing baby, only to find she was alone in her bedchamber. Shadows loomed above her bed, tall shapes with chainmail stood at the end of the bed. She had dreamt of babies after Janos Slynt reported the purging, all faceless, screaming and wailing. Robert's bastards, she thought, spiteful. Their ghosts followed even in her dreams. Joff was only protecting me from shame, she said to herself. My golden son, born to be king. He'd wipe away all his enemies who challenge his reign. The first was to get rid of all Robert's bastards, a threat to his power and shame that tarnished her face for years. Then she remembered the man in her chamber. Jaime, she called. The voice who answered was not Jaime's. Well, of course not, she shook her head to scatter the remnants of her dreams. Jaime is certainly still in Casterly Rock, with father, gathering sympathizers and preparing their vassals to defend Joffrey's throne. Now that pretender kings are looming in every corner of the kingdom. No Jaime, but no Robert's bastards, either. Aren't you proud of your son's first decision after being appointed king, my love? The sun has just risen. Its golden tinge peeks lazily from behind the horizon. The air was still cold as night, making her tremble under her crimson silk. She loves the color of her house. What is it? She asked, getting out of the bed. Her servant Sinel quickly put a bedrobe around her shoulder to cover her body. Sir Mandon Moore has a cup of wine in his hand. Instead of giving her an answer, he pressed the cup to her. Please take a sip, your grace. And if you will follow me. You are needed in the council room. So early in the morning. Give me a moment to dress, she answered, still confused and not fully aware. She sipped the wine anyway. As she followed the king's guard to the back of the throne room, which led to a room used for council meetings, Cersei took mental note to ask Pycelle for some sleeping draught tonight. To her surprise, the council room was packed. Did she forget there's a meeting this early? Petter Baelish, or who they called Littlefinger, the master of coin, rose from his seat. He planted a kiss on the back of her hand, murmuring soothing words. Varys the master whisperer, too, rose and bowed and led her to a chair next to Tyrion Lannister. She saw Grand Maester Pycelle and a small box on the table. A flagon of wine also present on the table, and Tyrion poured a cup for her. Not too early for you, I hope, he said as she took the cup from him. She grew annoyed. What is it? Where is Joffrey? Are we under siege already? Ah, not yet, thank the gods. The king is still sleeping in his chamber, Tyrion said, looking stern and tense. We received a message from Riverrun. When she didn't say a word, Tyrion pushed the small box on the table in front of her. The wooden box was plain and didn't look expensive. No trout carving either, if Tyrion said it was sent from Riverrun. She opened the lid. The face of a roaring lion carved on the necklace was the first thing that caught her eye. Next to the necklace was a strand of golden hair, bound with small straw. The face of her only daughter flashed before her eyes as she abruptly stood up from her chair. You said this is from Riverrun, she shouted. Riverrun. Tyrion didn't even flinch. Yes, he confirmed. Robb Stark has Myrcella. She must have lurched to the imp, blind with rage, that it needed Sir Mandon and 2 of Lannister guards to shield him from her claws. Littlefinger held her back as she, seething, hatred smoldering. Don't touch me, she wrenched away from Littlefinger's grip. She wants to hurt Tyrion so bad. It was his idea to send Myrcella to Dorne. Now Robb Stark has her. What in seven hells is this, a bad jape? Pycelle took a small parchment from inside the box. She didn't notice the parchment before, too shocked upon seeing her daughter's hair and necklace. He read the letter for her, the ragged old voice made her wonder which breath would be his last. To Cersei of House Lannister, Queen Regent of the Six Kingdoms and her son Joffrey. I, King Robb of House Stark, write to you on peaceful terms. I hereby demand the release of my sisters, along with my father's body and our ancestors' sword and all other hostages as well as our men's remains who died in King's Landing. The North will be an independent region, separate from the Iron Throne. If my peaceful terms are not met, I will litter the South with Lannister dead. Princess Myrcella is treated well and provided with every comfort. Harm will not come as long as my sisters and other hostages are treated with honor and civil care. That boy has the nerve. 6 kingdoms, he dare say, calling our king by his name. Pycelle slammed the parchment onto the table. The grey direwolf Sigil was facing up, mocking her. Robb Stark has my daughter. How could this happen? They had not received any news from the Dawn. Long journeys often took more time, so they still waited for ravens, until the message from Riverrun arrived. Tyrion's plan was to let the whole King's Landing watch as Myrcella boarded the royal ship. Sir Aris and some of Lannister guards would then snuck her back to Duskendale and rode to Dorne. It was a rouse to keep Stannis off her track if he has any ill meaning to her children. The lies he sent to all corners of Westeros, Cersei grimaced at the memory of another letter she had long burned. Calling me whore and my children abominations. She was considered to be one of the most beautiful women in the 7 kingdoms, yet Robert was not taken with her beauty. Her husband had called on a dead woman when he did his marital duty. Jaime is the best man she ever knew, gentle, loving, took care of her pleasure, and she was proud to have his children. They are not abominations. That boy wins every battle he rode in so far. That boy held hostage my niece. That boy is marching south to us. Tyrion replied austerely and Pycelle grimaced. Explain, she hissed. Myrcella is supposed to be in Dorne. I swear to God I will kill you if these northern savages hurt my daughter. We don't know why Myrcella strayed too far into the Riverlands. The directions are very different, the imp pondered. No words about Sir Aris and her guards as hostages, so let us assume they were all perished. But most importantly, Robb Stark mentioned his sisters. A good thing he doesn't know you've lost Arya. Listen, imp. Robb Stark must have attacked them, she screamed. Thanks to your clever plan of sending away my daughter. If she stays in King's Landing, then she must be dead when Stannis took the city. Tyrion shouted back. At least she'd be here with me. She wants to strangle the stupid imp, hearing his bones break under her clutch. No way had the northern forces reached our border without rousing any attention. Varys said. We should let Lord Tywin know. Janos Slynt interrupted. She has not paid attention to the bald man who stood at the farthest end of the table. Her father had just left the capital with Jaime and left Tyrion acting as Hand of the King in his stead. Tywin felt from the beginning that Stannis Baratheon was a greater danger than all other kings combined. Varys has heard whispers. Stannis is building ships, bringing a Shadowbinder from Ass High, massing armies in Dragonstone. It was enough to make Tywin left with Jaime to Casterly Rock to amass an army for Joffrey. Raven already on the way to the rock. Thank you. Tyrion raised an eyebrow to him, sounding displeased. Bring me the map. A large map of the 7 kingdoms was laid on the table. Tyrion looked closely at the territory that is Lord Hoster Tully's. His index finger skimmed the map, lost in thought. Duskendale, he muttered to himself, tapping his finger on the map. King's Road. The finger moves, made a slide further to the middle of the map and now stopped right above Riverrun. Where are you going, Myrcella? He murmured to himself. For a long time his mismatched eyes skimmed the map. Then his finger moved again, now strayed far to the west. Casterly Rock. He let out a breath, surprised. What is the meaning of this? She became increasingly impatient. We should storm Riverrun at this moment. Robb Stark abducted my daughter. Casterly Rock. Tyrion looked up from the map and their eyes locked. Myrcella went to Casterly Rock. And why did she do that? My daughter was abducted. The timing was right, Littlefinger chirped in. Lord Tywine and Lord Commander were in the rock when the princess was sent on her way. Has she not been pleased of being sent to Dorne? Perhaps, she made a detour. The room fell silent. Cersei turned to her imp brother, the mismatched eyes stared back at her unwavering. It has been his plan to ship Myrcella to Dorne, to have her travel so long on a dangerous path. It was his fault that Myrcella was taken away from her. If only they lived in a world that treated women more than just breeding tools. She clenched her fist so hard, her nails dug into her flesh. One day I pray you love someone so much, when you close your eyes you see her face. I want that for you, oh I do, little brother. I want you to know what it's like to love someone, to truly love someone, before I take her from you. They won't hurt her. She is just a little girl, he managed to say. His audacity was unnerving. Everywhere in the world, they hurt little girls, she said. It was a dream, a bad one. Her drunkard whoring husband was gone, his bastards were gone, but in exchange for her only daughter. My sweet, perfect daughter. Sinel made sure wine was flowing to her chamber. Lancel tried to soothe her pain, but instead the stupid lad only made it worse. She sent him away, hating his touch and his poor attempt on top of her. She wanted Jaime. She only and truly feels whole when her brother was inside of her. They belong together, the sole reason why she let his seeds quickens. I warned you, Cersei of House Lannister. Leave King's Landing tonight, for I intend to tell Robert about your scheming. Take the ship to the Free Cities with your children. Save them from Robert Swarth. All Robert Baratheon's children are not true Baratheon. No. No, I won't let them harm my children. She angrily tried to shake Eddard Stark and Stannis Baratheon's words from her memory. My children are not abominations. She should wear the armor and make her enemies scream as she tear their flesh. The heavy velvet and silk on her body suffocate her. She yearns for a dirk, sword and lance, whatever. She'd kill them all. Her anger was the same as when she realized Jaime was given swords and bow, while she was not. Her hatred rises again when she remembers her life would be spent with a man she hates, who hits and fucks prostitutes, while Jaime is given Casterly Rock. Her daughter has the same fate, sent by force to marry, so she had to escape halfway. She wrote to Jaime begging him to save Myrcella. Robb Stark has our daughter. He cuts her hair, what further harm he'd wreak on her. He killed her sworn shield and guards. I am afraid for her life. Please do something. Do something. Cersei stroked the pendant in her hand. The gold felt cold in her palm, the roaring lion chiseled there lost its passion. How long has she not seen her daughter? Myrcella's wide smiles and her carefree laughs that she used to take for granted made her heart ache even more as she recalled them. I have not taught you enough, she said to herself. You were taken too soon from me. My daughter is the young lioness on prairies. Delicate yet fierce, she was so much more than I ever did. She was gentle, trusting and good. From her first breath she was so sweet. When Jaime held her, he said she smiled at him as if she knew who he was. She was nothing like me, no meanness, no jealousy, just good. Please save her for me, she'd pray to the Seven. Even to stranger she begged to take Robb Stark's breath, her brother that imp, and everyone else standing between her and her only daughter, if it meant to bring her daughter back. A mother never loved anyone like her first child, but Myrcella is different. While Joff is robust and Tommen is weak, Myrcella is a better person of herself. Your Grace, you summon me. She held the necklace tightly in her fist before turning to see her guest. Sansa Stark stood by her chamber's door, a girl just a year or two older than her Myrcella. The girl's auburn hair was arranged up in a complicated style. She herself made sure that Sansa's servant styled the girl's hair in the most southern manner as possible. She will not suffer any northern audacity in this city. Sansa was clad in all gold and red, heavy velvet and flowing silk with gemstones and gold jewelry as befits her station of noble birth and Joffrey's betrothed. She is a pretty girl, Cersei mused as she gestured the girl to join her in the balcony. How will her brother dress Myrcella? In rags and wolf's furs. She pondered bitterly. My daughter looked best in gold, red, and green. Yes, little dove. Come sit. Sansa obeyed. Her hands on her lap trembled slightly as she took the seat. Samarin, who escorted her, waited in the balcony arched door, sour and sullen under his heavy eyelids as always. She paid no mind to the Kingsguard. "How are you?" she asked, and the girl in front of her looked puzzled. I am fine, Your Grace. Thank you for asking." Cersei leaned on her chair as she looked at the view from the balcony. The whole King's Landing stretches far and wide, thousands of people pressed in its alleys. The poorest of them packed in Flea Bottom, thank goodness, was located on the other side of the Red Keep. "I was thinking," Cersei said, still choosing to fixate her eyes on the horizon instead of Sansa. The mere presence of the girl brought her anger, and yet she needed to talk to her about this. "What do you think of your brother, Robb Stark?" "Your Grace. You know I don't think about him at all. He committed treason and I am loyal to my Joffrey." "My Joffrey, you mean?" "I know, little dove. Do you know that he took Myrcella hostage? Your brother attacked my daughter." "I heard, yes, Your Grace. But I am sure Joffrey will smash his forces." "I expected it, yes," she replied plainly. "I see you are a woman grown now, Sansa. Do you think it is time to wed you to my son?" If she was surprised by her sudden proposal, Sansa didn't show it. The girl just sits silently, nodding her auburn head. "Shall we send for a royal seamstress to make you a wedding gown?" "I will be happy to wed my prince, Your Grace." She is a terrible liar, Cersei thought sadly. "Tell me, Sansa, and tell me truly. You are treated kindly here. Do you think your brother will do the same to Myrcella?" She finally looked at the girl who squirmed in her seat, as her eyes tried to pierce through her veil of blankness. "Yes, Your Grace. Even though he is a traitor, but he must treat Myrcella properly. It is not enough. I am asking you to write to your brother, little dove. Tell him that you are treated kindly here. And to ensure that Myrcella, in return, will be treated with honor." She pushed the parchment and quill to Sansa. The girl's hand trembled as she raised the quill, dipped it in ink and wrote words that Cersei said. "Dear Robb. I beg you again, come to King's Landing like King Joffrey said. Please stop further strife between our houses. The Lannisters are treating me very well and provide me with every comfort. I hope that you will treat Princess Myrcella with honor and kindness as her family does for me. Your faithful sister, Sansa." She reread the letter again until she was satisfied. "You may go, little dove." The girl was already on her feet when she noticed her wobbly walk. Joffrey must have taught her a lesson again, especially after he heard about Myrcella. Robert used to hit her, too. A king should never lay a hand on his queen, that much she told Joffrey. But Sansa is not yet married to Joff, no. She was restless. She commanded Littlefinger and Varys and their spies and whatever tools they have to bring any news on her daughter. Just anything. Where is she now? How did they treat her? Why did Robb Stark not send her any reply? Tommen cried all day for his sister and her whining hurt her ears. At 10 he was a plump, tender-hearted boy. She knew her youngest tried his best, but he was not as strong-willed as Joffrey. She had to leave him with his kittens and his servants. Tommen would be fine eventually, other things needed to be tending to. Joffrey needed a regent to rule until he came of age. She has council meetings to attend to on behalf of her son. Stannis is still a threat that should not be ruled out. The last letter Jaime wrote to her was that 60,000 men-at-arms marched from Casterly Rock to siege Riverrun and torched the Riverlands. It was about time, since the Stark boy didn't send her any reply. She was satisfied, then. Fine, let them burn. How dare him? Just when she thought it couldn't get any worse, Robb Stark captured Jaime and destroyed his army on the Green Fork. Her wrath was violent when she received the news. No wine in this world could ease her pain. Pycelle prescribed her more sleeping potions to help her calm down. Their forces were scattered and could not reach King's Landing. Kings were in every corner in the realm. How could that boy defeat 60,000 Lannister soldiers? She screamed as her goblet flung from her hand to the wall. They were surrounded by enemies. Tywin's army was cut from the Crown Lands by Robb. Stannis landed in Maidenpool, taking Harrenhal and more than half of Renly's army after he died. The blade that cut through Renly's throat was a blessing from the gods. The only thing they gained from this mess was fewer kings and the Tyrells. Now even those over-smelling roses give pain despite the thousands of troops they brought to Joffrey. She hates how that little bitch Margaery batted her eyelashes to her son. The deep plunge of her gowns meant to attract the attention of men and women alike. The little bitch's laugh was an insult to her ears. Yet she has to bear them for the sake of the army her father, Mace Tyrell, brought. Scheming roses, who married off their daughter to Renly, only to run back to them when Renly was dead. I will never trust those roses. She instructed every smith in King's Landing to labor night and day making armors. Soldiers were sent from Rosby and Stokeworth and surrounding areas, so they needed the best armor and swords. Alchemists were arranged in the dungeon to manufacture vast amounts of wildfire, while the city watch was tripled in size. Stags and wolves are coming, but the lions will be prepared. With Tywin's army still restrained in the west, they must strengthen their defenses as foremost as possible. It was the only thing she and the Empire agreed upon. Catapults, scorpions, bows, arrows, steel, swords, horses, she wanted to be ready when they come. Unbeknownst to others, she has also kept a small vial of essence of nightshade. She hoped she'd never have to use the poison, but she won't let anyone make her die miserably should the battle be lost and the city falls. What happened to Elia Martell will not befall her. And speaking of the Martells, she was informed Dawn was not happy. They were promised a princess, but no princess came. They have not brought to the iron side of this war. Tyrion sent Littlefinger and some lords to meet Prince Doran, yet rejection and closed doors were obtained. It was Oberyn Martell, Prince Doran's brother, who met them at Sunspear with a spear in his hand and denied them the guest right. Do you know why all the world hates a Lannister? You think your gold and your lions make you better than everyone. We don't trust Lannisters and their creatures anymore. A Baratheon Lannister princess was promised for my nephew. Where is the promised bride? Without Myrcella, they can kiss the already fragile Martell Lannister's alliance goodbye. The plump eunuch informed her that Stannis and the Stark boy were on the move separately. His powdered face betrayed no emotion as he told her this. The outrageous colored damask he wears smelled of lilac when she brought her head closer to Varys to hear the information. They were in Joff's chamber. No sighting of Princess Myrcella among Stannis's forces. Do you think the boy took her with him? Varys bowed. It occurred to my mind, yes, your grace. We knew that our men killed Stannis's scouts just this morning, she pondered. Stannis will be here soon, yes. And does my imp brother have anything to say about it? The Hand is on the Street of Steel this very moment, your grace. Ah, the Iron Giant chain. Yes. Jaime, any news about him? My little bird only saw a glimpse of him, once. Chained inside a barred wagon. My Jaime is a lion, a dangerous one, she thought proudly. No chain can hold a lion as strong as Jaime for long. He will find a way to come back to me and bring our daughter back. Where is grandfather? Joffrey called from his chair. The new crossbow he played has a golden lion, the sigil of House Lannister, on the prod. Lord Tywin is still at Casterly Rock, your grace, Varys answered. He took some time to gather men for me, Joff snapped. He reloaded a red bow inside the lever. Now my enemies are marching to steal my crown. Where is he? Did he capture my usurper Uncle Stannis? Tell him to send Robb Stark's head so I can give it to Sansa. Sansa is your betrothed, your grace, she said. It is not wise to do so, especially when they have your uncle and your little sister. My stupid uncle and my useless sister, Joffrey sneered. My father won't let himself be captured by his enemies. Her hand lashed out without her noticing and slapped the side of Joffrey's face. Both of them were surprised and she could hear Joff whimpering. Her son touched his cheek, red with the mark of her palm where she struck him. Joffrey's eyes flared like wild animals and for a moment she thought he would aim the crossbow at her. It was loaded. Varys bowed low, eyes on the floor upon seeing their surprising exchange. Hit me again and that will be the last thing you do, mother. Joff snarled. Forgive me, your grace, she managed to say, though curtly. Joffrey might be strong-willed but not the brightest. When he was supposed to keep Ned Stark alive in the dungeons, he chopped off his head for mere public entertainment. When he was supposed to send ravens and ask for parley or whatever thing they do to exchange hostages, he did nothing. She had begged Joff to send Raven back to Robb when he intended to send the Stark boy his sister's severed hand as a warning. Thank the Seven, the whole council opposed Joff's idea. She even considered writing Robb Stark herself again, even after the boy didn't reply to her first letter, accepting his peace terms as long as Myrcella returned to her. Joff and Tywine would have none of it. Finally, when Jaime was captured, the imp arranged for a delegation to deliver Ned Stark's bones and his Valyrian sword in good faith to ask Robb to withdraw his troops. They have not heard from the delegation yet. Whether they reached the Stark boy in time or no, they didn't know. War keeps on raging with each passing day. Jaime and Myrcella's lives were at stake. And now Varys' little bird said their enemies were on the move again. They were still cut from Tywine's army. How many moons have passed since they woke her up that fateful day? How long will she have to wait until she holds her daughter again and to feel Jaime fulfilling her? How could she trust these stupid men milling about before her? They have power only because of the cock between their legs. She retreated from Joffrey's chamber with Varys on her heel, as they made their way to the Tower of Hand. Synel confirmed that Tyrion has come back from the Street of Steel. He sat behind the Hand's desk as she strode into his solar, not bothering to knock. She is the Queen Regent, after all. Ah, sister, Lord Varys. Tyrion inclined his head but not rising from his seat. What do I have the honor of being visited by you two? You told me you will free Jaime. Where is he? She demanded. With Stannis Baratheon and Robb Stark, safe and under guard. That was not funny. How could he let himself be captured by a boy? She felt her sadness and anger swelling inside her but trying to keep herself calm. And where is father? What took him so long to come? I trusted him. Yet he ran back to Casterly Rock, sitting idly. Look again, sweet sister. Tyrion replied, trying to smile reassuringly. If those usurpers took our ancestral seat, what good is bound to happen to our vassal? He might look like he sits idly, but yet, wars are won through paper and quills too. Sooner or later the lions will have them. Are you sure, imp? While father plays lion through whatever you call it with the Stark boy, Stannis is marching up the King's Road. He could be at our gates any day now. Didn't you see the heads of his scouts on the ramparts? The city will not fall a day. Tyrion sighed, massaging his temples. My little bird said that in less than fortnight, Stannis will be here. Not to mention that he and the Stark boy struck some kind pact. Ah, I bet so. His father supported Stannis as heir to the throne, so why did the son not support the man his father died for? I prayed to the stranger to take Robb Stark's breath. Put some arrow or dagger to him, too, just like Renly, she said coldly. We should send another assassin. Sister, while it'd make our enemy fewer, but assassin is expensive. You'll need to pray harder to the stranger for Stannis, too. Tyrion scratched his beardless chin. Her father, her brother and her had different opinions on whose king was the most dangerous opponent. While Tywine claimed it was Stannis who at the time only had Dragonstone on his side, Tyrion believed Renly had the best bet to defeat them. The youngest, more popular Baratheon's marriage to Margaery Tyrell secured the wealth of the Reach and cut the food supply coming to King's Landing. Their battles in the Riverlands made both Robb's and Tywine's sides lose men. This made Renly the king with the most powerful troops. Soon even Tywine was forced to see that while Robb Stark ravaged their troops in the Westerlands, Renly starved them in the capital. Tyrion suspected Renly deliberately kept them starving and desperate that the inhabitants of King's Landing, fed up with Joffrey's cruelty, will open the city gates for Renly's troops. The possibility sums up to Renly arriving in King's Landing when the people's disgust reached its peak. Their forces were killed by Robb Stark on the battlefield before reaching them in time, exhausted and spent, while Renly, thanks to the Tyrells and Stormen's vassals, had nearly 100,000 fresh and well-fed men at arms. Assassin does come at a dear price. They had their one chance and they used it on Renly. She doesn't know what it cost Tywine Lannister for such an act, but the outcome was as intended. Renly's forces split up, they have the Tyrells and their army now. The capital is saved, for now, from hunger and desperation. Most Stormen's vassals went to Stannis, but it was pretty much logical and expected since he became the last Baratheon with Renly's death. What will you do then? She sneered. Sat idly like father. No, Tyrion sounded insulted. I was just writing a letter when you came in uninvited. He raised an eyebrow to her as he folds the parchment in front of him. Like I've said before, wars are won through paper and quills, too. What did you write? To whom? She demanded, but Tyrion only tsk'd and folded the letter. He collected the rest of papers scattered on his desk, throwing them all into a wooden box. For an instant Cersei thought she saw some golden kraken on a black field in one of those papers. I have an idea. Varys chimed in softly and two golden heads turned to him. If not assassin, why not send a little bird? A spy, she snatched the idea. Yes, why not? We can send someone to pierce into Stannis and those northern savages. Not Stannis, but the young wolf. The young wolf. Robb Stark, your grace. They called him the young wolf. Tyrion rolled his eyes. They say he rides into battle on the back of a giant direwolf. So he is, my lord. Varys bowed. And your idea? She asked impatiently. Well, right now he is ravaging your father's army in the Westerlands, your grace. Put a spy, if possible with a background or knowledge of northern culture, into Robb Stark's circle. I heard he attacked Ashmark. Lord Daemon Marbrand was slaughtered. That was unfortunate. He has always been nice to me. Tyrion said. His son and heir, Adam, was good friends with Jaime. I hope he survives. Sir Adam was with Lord Tywine in the Rock, my lord. Varys answered. Surely no one expected this Robb Stark to be a very capable commander. Tyrion sighed. Father will beat him. I am sure he will, she said stubbornly. Come to think about it, our beloved father is not known for his strategy, but for his ruthlessness. What do you mean? You dare say he is not capable of beating the Stark boy? No, I did not say that. Tyrion looked exhausted. What I was saying, father was known to have, different, approaches. Remember the Tarbecks? The Rains. Everyone in the realm knew it, my lord. Varys smiles dryly. Who has not heard the Rains of Castamaria? She knew the look on the imp's face, how his eyes furrowed on his ugly head, the mismatched eyes narrowed to a point in the distance. His fat little finger tapped on the table as he thought. Tap. 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 She hates it. Well. Tap. 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 I am talking to you, imp. And I heard you the first time. Tyrion looked annoyed. One of us got to think, all right. Tap. 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 I will write to father, he said suddenly, and without expecting his visitors to react, Tyrion swiftly pulled a new parchment. You are never close to father, she scoffed. Making you hand in his stead doesn't mean you are valuable enough in his eyes. Your brother and your niece were taken hostage, thanks to your plans. I'm getting fed up with your clever plans as long as they don't bring Jaime and Myrcella back. Do you even love your family, imp? Why, sister, you wound me. Tyrion sighed. I do love my family even when you don't believe so. Although you are very annoying, I admit the love you have for your children is a redeeming quality. I promise you, father, and I will make it right. My lord Hand is Lord Tywine's son. Varys chimed in. Our enemies will soon make a mistake, no doubt. What about the spy? You will have your spy, sister. Tyrion said impatiently. Lord Varys will see to it, won't you, my lord? Varys bowed. My pleasure, my lord. I want a full report on this. And you shall have it. Now if I may return to my work. Tyrion raised an eyebrow. Chapter 13. Chapter text. Myrcella. The mood was high and hot for the victory they achieved last night. She could only close her eyes before dawn, but was awakened shortly by moans from outside the tent. She was getting used to Pia's activities when the servant thought she was sleeping. At first Myrcella was confused when she woke up and found Pia's pallet empty. Muffled voices from outside the tent led her out under the oak tree where she found them. For a moment she thought Walton was hurting Pia, because the man's hand was between the woman's legs and Pia was moaning, low on her throat. When they started kissing, she looked away and ran back to her tent, pretending to sleep when Pia finally slipped into her pallet. Myrcella lay restlessly on hers, tossing from left to right. Morning sunlight began to emerge. She had missed another sleep again. She pressed Rob's surcoat over her thin ivory nightgown and peeked out of the tent. Walton and other guards were nowhere to be seen. Pierre snores softly from their adjoining sleeping pallets. The atmosphere was still dark and cold, gloom coming up in the sky as the sun barely risen. The world was silent finally, the leftover of campfire only emitted smoke from the ash heap. Men succumbed to their fatigue after battle, dying or carrying whatever they could from the battlefield. The tension she felt earlier dissolved into mist. She was confused at how quiet it became. Only a few hours back she heard them singing, screaming, yelling, hailing. She was not sure where to go. It's been a long time since she's been out in the open this early. When she stepped out of her tent and no one shouted at her, not even one was seen near her, she thought of running away. Robb has taken Ashmark. She didn't really know about the castle or the surroundings area, rather than House Marbrand was loyal vassal of House Lannister. Lord Marbrand was slain in battle and his castle looted. If she was fast enough and the men are still sleeping, perhaps she could reach the nearest holdfast and announced who she was. Then they could take her to Casterly Rock where Lord Tywine is. She tentatively took a step further from her pavilion. No. I will not run again. The last time I escaped I caused Sir Aris and his men's deaths. Walton, she called meekly, afraid she'd awaken other men than her surly guard. No answer came. I will just visit the pond, Myrcella decided. The crystal clear water reflects the morning sun. Rays of light touched her skin, warm like a lover's kiss. Myrcella crouched on the edge of the pool, watching her reflection on the calm surface of the water. Her golden hair shone under the sunlight even though in a messy state. The morning breeze didn't help either but tousled it even more. Pierre and her mother would be crazy if they found out she was in the open in such condition. She did not care. Whether her hair neatly combed or braided has become less important to her now. She thought of the faceless prince she was betrothed to. Oftentimes it was Robb Stark's face that became the prince's. Could she be happy, safe and warm in Dorne if she didn't run away? She doesn't even know the prince's name. Although she was ashamed to admit it, Robb was in her mind more than she liked. Is he kind? She wondered, thinking of the Dawn Prince. Does he have a contagious laugh? Is he wise? Is he honorable? Will I grow to love him? Does he grow to love me? Then the reflection of her wild appearance made her cringe. She looked exhausted and her hair stuck out in all directions. If he sees me like this, does he still want me? What if I never met Robb Stark again? Her brows furrowed. Why am I even thinking about Robb? She remembers how she was first introduced to him. It happened a long time ago it seems, like in another lifetime, when King Robert came to visit Eddard Stark in Winterfell. Robb was standing between his lord father and his siblings, already tall and looking solemn. She remembered that she had thought Robb was a handsome young man. They didn't interact much apart from formal greetings when passing each other. Once or twice she remembered she had thought Robb looked far more regal than Joffrey, the crowned prince. She watched him sparring with his brothers, laughing with his sisters, a few times talking with guards around Winterfell. Both were heirs, but when they were put together she could see how different Robb and Joffrey were. Praying for Robb's safety has made her uneasy lately. What should she pray to end the War of the Five Kings? Was she wrong to hope that Robb would not be injured in this war, a war that was precisely against her own family? Hello. She startled and almost fell into the water. Robb Stark stood on the opposite side of the pool, laughing. Did I surprise you, princess? She opened her mouth but no words came out. Instead, she remembered how unpresentable she was. Her hair was tousled and unruly, while the form-fitting nightgown was improper in front of a grown man, let alone a king. Myrcella stood up to press the surcoat tighter onto her, trying to cover herself. It was somewhat easy because the surcoat was bigger and covered better than any robe she has ever worn. Robb's face grew serious. Forgive me, I didn't mean to laugh at you, he said. His long legs strode around the pool to reach her side. Stop, she shouted unconsciously, burying her face in her hands. What, why? Robb was stunned by her reaction. I am not presentable enough. She felt ugly. No one ever saw her like this. Was that a jape? He pulled her hands gently from her face. Myrcella looked at him with uncertainty. There you are. You looked fine to me. His smile was gentle. She wondered how many maidens had fallen for his smiles back then in Winterfell. She realized that Rob's hand was still holding hers and she pulled her hand away. What are you doing out here this morning? Where are your handmaiden and your guards? Your Grace, she turned her head sideways to avoid looking at him. Being caught unruly and wearing his surcoat are enough embarrassment for a lifetime. If you don't answer I may suspect you are plotting something. He tried to jest, but when she failed to respond again, Rob grew even more serious. Are you alright? He looked earnestly concerned. Say something. Princess Myrcella. I just wanted to wash my face, she said timidly. Rob raised an eyebrow. You stared at the water so long I thought you fell asleep. I was just thinking. A coin for your thought, he smirked. Why are you here, Your Grace? She asked him suspiciously. Perhaps I need to wash my face too, he said casually. Liar. You dare call me a liar? I just did, Your Grace. Rob laughed. His auburn hair was longer, messier, like he also just rose from his bed. For the first time he was out of his armor, only wearing a white doublet and dark wool breeches. The doublet has a front opening fastened with buttons, the top two opened and she could see the shadow of his chest hair. His house sigil was sewn at the collar of the doublet. Truth is, I am looking for you. I never visited your pavilion before and thought I'd see how you were doing. You have the best part of these woods. Rob gazing to their surroundings. When finally his bright blue eyes find her face again, her heart beats a little faster. How are you, Princess? You came here just to ask how I am, Your Grace. Yes. And what should I feel? I don't know, hate, perhaps. Anger. Grudge. Anything. I just took Ashmark from your grandfather. Once we plundered the land, we'll move further west. The blue eyes pierced into her, waiting for her response. I don't know what I should feel, she answered honestly. Am I sad? Yes, I think of my Uncle Jaime all the time. Is he alright? Will he survive? I missed my mother, too. Am I angry? Yes, for thousands of lives gone because of this war. I am angry because my brother started it. Am I afraid? All the time, Your Grace, for you, for my little brother Tommen. I fear the future only brings more pain and deaths to our realm. So tell me, Your Grace, what should I feel? Even I am confused about my own feelings. You can start by hating me. Rob offered. She shook her head. Do you want me to hate you? I prefer your trust than your hate. She looked away from him to the crystal clear pond. He confused her. Why are you here? She wanted to ask him again but didn't dare. The words went dead at the tip of her tongue. Do you want to hurt my feelings by informing me that we're going further west to my grandfather, killing his people and plundering his land? Why are you taking me with your army? So many questions running in her head. I don't want to hate you, she confessed. That was a relief. I don't want to be hated by you. Is that what you want, a king loved by all? I swore to myself that I'd be a good king. Rob spoke softly but his voice vibrates full and deep. His face lights up. Strong, loyal and just to my friends. Brave when I have to face my enemies. The old gods help me, why would anyone want to be king? I told myself every night as I take off that heavy crown, be as honorable as father. Rob's blue tully eyes seemed ablaze with fire she had never seen before. She never realized to be so drawn to his face like that. You are the best king I've known so far, she admitted shyly. Flattering. Rob smirked. The dimple on his right cheek greeted her. Your uncle the imp summoned my cousin Robin Arryn to be fostered in King's Landing. A Kingsguard named Meryn Trant also appointed as Warden of the East. Do you know him? He did. Sir Meryn, she was surprised. Wardenship is tied to hereditary lordship, as far she knew. Her grandfather is Warden of the West, as did Rob is Warden of the North before he was crowned king. Can a Kingsguard become Warden? Apparently they could. Ravens were sent from King's Landing to announce it. Doesn't matter, naming this Trant Warden only to command the Vale's forces. That's it. He's not given the Uri, not the whole or bits of the Vale. Your brother only made him able to command its lords and forces during the war. He looked upset, but she didn't blame him. When he bent down to pick up a pebble on the ground, Rob groaned and straightened right away. Are you okay? You are not hurt, aren't you? She approached him, worried. Rob nodded. I am fine. This is nothing. Lord Marbrand's blacksmith hid behind the dais when we charged into the main hall. Rob said. The man swung his sledgehammer and I received a blow on the side of my torso. He shrugged. The way he indifferently told her as if they were talking about what to eat for supper made her afraid. She was so shocked that she blurted out the first thing that came to her mind. Prince Rhaegar Targaryen died from blows to the chest in the Trident. Rob grinned. The blacksmith was not King Robert and his warhammer. Myrcella glared at him incredulously. Why, are you worried about me? His grin was devilish. She felt her cheeks grew hot when she realized he was teasing her. Of course I do. What if he meant to aim at your head? Did you even wear a helmet? I never saw you wearing one. And what about your armor? Does your armor protect you enough? Why are you Northerners never wearing a full-bodied armor? Why are you even at the forefront of the battle? She stopped her rant when Rob threw his head back and laughed heartily. In the midst of his laughter he grimaced and held the side of his injured torso, still chuckling. She tried to sound fierce but her voice betrayed her feelings. Do you need something to ease the pain? Is there any maester to look at your injury? Rob stopped laughing. I am fine, princess. There was a maester in Lord Marbrand's castle but he jumped from his tower and died. Besides, this is war. A little bruise does not make me have to lay in bed. I've got worse training under Sir Roderick, our master-at-arms. There were lots of my men that sustained worse. He squatted carefully and picked up a pebble to throw into the pool. The water rippled as the small rock hit the surface of the water, sending ripples extending throughout the pond. No need to worry, princess. I will not die. Not before I make sure you are safe with your kin. She didn't know what to say at that. Aren't you close with Joffrey? He asked, picking up another pebble. Not really. Mother was always by his side. I rather not deal with Joff. I have my little brother Tommen and my uncles. Joffrey's face flashed in her mind. Joffrey used to find her when she was alone in her chamber. Myrcella looked away, feeling sick as she was reminded of Joffrey's scornful smile. Fortunately Rob didn't seem to notice. Tommen, I remembered him. Rob nodded. He is the same age of Bran, I think. They are, yes, your grace. A smile came to her face as she remembered her young brother. The better, kind and loving brother. He will be 11 soon. You missed him, he observed her. I do. Her smile faded when sadness pierced her heart. I believe you feel the same to your siblings, your grace. Rob threw another pebble into the pool. He was silent for a while, staring at the rippling water. I am, he replied. My brother Jon, he paused for a moment as if surprised why he spoke of the topic further. He cleared his throat and rose carefully, eyeing her. My brother Jon tried to desert the Night's Watch when he heard about our father. His friends prevented him from doing so. But they are not just his friends, they are his brothers of the Night's Watch. If not, I'd have my brother by my side now. Jon Snow, Myrcella recalled of a handsome, dark-haired brooding man of Rob's age, Lord Eddard's natural son. I am sorry to hear that she didn't know why Rob was telling her about it. Don't be, Rob replied. He must do his duty, as I did mine. I do plan to take Jon back, if he is willing, to Winterfell. I will offer the Night's Watch 500 men to man their castles against the wildlings, in exchange for Jon. That was generous of you, your grace. The last time I saw my siblings was in Winterfell. Rickon was only 5, he cried and clung to my leg wherever I went. Everyone left, he said. He didn't want me to go south. Bran was adapting with his new wheelchair designed by our maester. Maester Lewin wrote he is a natural leader. There must always be a Stark in Winterfell, father taught me. And Bran did a good job. Rob looked at her, but his eyes distant. She knew Rob was looking at the grey castle of Winterfell and imagining a time that would not return. And my sisters, he continued, clenching his fists. Arya was not happy to be taken to King's Landing. I should have told father not to take her too. Now she is missing. You saw yourself what they did to Sansa. When we were little, Sansa and Jon and I loved to play maiden, dragons and knight. I was her favorite knight. Not Jon, not Bran. Me. He let out a bitter laugh. I don't even know why I am telling you these. She bit her lip and wanted to say that Robb could let go of his anger at her, hit her or lock her up, chain her feet and hands, or whatever it needed, but she doesn't dare. She remembered vividly the last time Robb was offended when she asked him if he intended to hurt her. She will not question him about it again. He wants her to trust him. But can you trust the enemy? The voice at the back of her head came again. The fact is, I don't hate you. Robb exhales. But I am a Lannister. The sun rose higher and faintly she could hear the sound of people starting to wake up. You are not a Lannister to me, Robb said softly. You will see your brother Tommen again, princess, as I will see mine. She heard Peer called to her from afar. Leaves rustled as Peer and Walton tried to walk as fast as possible towards them. She could hear them hurrying, but they were not yet visible through the trees and sagebrush. We will talk again soon, Robb said. Now go to your handmaid and guards, princess. They must be worried to find you gone. If I was them, I'd be too. The deep dimple appeared on his right cheek again when he smiled. She obeyed and ran towards Peer's voice. The servant was indeed worried. When she looked back to see him, Robb was no longer by the pool. Do we have a maester in the camp? Not that I know of, milady. Qyburn went with King Stannis to take care of your uncle. And he is not a maester either. We do have some healers for the wounded soldiers, though. Are you sick, milady? No, but King Robb told me he was injured by a blow from a sledgehammer. She bit her lip. Has anyone treated the injury? I supposed, milady. I saw the king earlier when I fetched us our lunch. He seemed fine. Peer answered, as the servant combed her hair. She really hoped so. Robb has won yet again, but at what cost? If Robb and Stannis win the War of the Five Kings, what will happen to her, to Joffrey and to Tommen as heirs to the Iron Throne? And if Robb lost, she blinked away the tears that suddenly filled her eyes, afraid Peer would notice. Why does my heart hurt? Good men die, so why the thought of Robb dying makes me sad. Peer took out a canary yellow dress made of thick cotton from the clothing chest. There was hardly any ornament on the modest dress, except the embroidered dandelions in silver and white at the waist. Peer helped her into the dress after securing her long locks into a simple sideways braid, resting on her left shoulder. The servant and her guard seemed busy since noon. She sensed they would break camp soon, perhaps after Robb made sure there was a place for them to live as they entered deeper into her grandfather's territory. Myrcella rarely saw Robb around the camp, other than because she herself could not walk far from her own pavilion. She had to rely on Peer or Walton to ask about Robb. Walton wasn't too happy and looked annoyed every time she asked. Peer replies happily, sometimes adding some information she hears from the cook or squires. King Robb is good. I met him and Oliver Free. We will move again soon. I saw his squire fetch him this venison soup just now. Even the slightest information about him brings a smile to her. Milady, Sir Patrek is here to see you. Myrcella rose from her chair to greet the knight. Patrek Mallister smiled broadly at her, his shoulder-length brown hair tightly secured to a neat ponytail. He wears his armor, dyed purple with the sigil of his house, a silver eagle, on the breastplate. Good afternoon, princess. He bowed to her. Sir Patrek, it is good to see you. She greeted the knight who used to be one of her guards. Is there anything I can help you with? I was just walking past your pavilion when I remember you liked to take a walk in the afternoon, the knight replied, still all smiles. Today is a fine day. I thought I could take you for a walk. Nothing fancy, I fear, just around the camp. She glanced at Walton, who shrugged. I'd like that, sir. Thank you. Sir Patrek offered his arm and she took it. He led her around the camp, showing where the cooks skinned the game they caught that day, and tents used by the smiths forging armor. He was courteous with her. Their conversation was mostly about Seaguard, House Mallister's fortress in the Riverlands, and about his father Lord Jason Mallister, who was currently there. Several times Sir Patrek asked about her. What did she do during the day? Is she comfortable enough being in a military campaign? Not much, Myrcella answered, blushing. Just waiting, sitting, talking with Pia. Sewing. Sometimes I read. That sounds nice. You must be talented at all of those. The sewing in particular. Someday I'd like to wear your favor, princess. Sir, she was unsure. She faintly remembered a handkerchief she meant to give to Rob. She had no chance to give it to him directly, so she left it to Lady Caitlin. I already gave my favor to another. Sir Patrick smiles at her. He patted her hand that was still holding his arm. It was a good thing that the young wolf brought you with us. You are safer here, than with Stannis. Stannis. He is my uncle, she replied meekly. He won't hurt me. Sir Patrick only nodded again and they resumed walking. The wind was blowing hard that afternoon. She shivered under Rob's surcoat. Several times she felt Sir Patrick's gaze on her. It made her somehow uncomfortable. They just walked through logistic tents when she saw Rob in the distance. He was standing with his back to them, talking to some men. She couldn't hear them, but she would recognize his auburn curls anywhere. Her heart swelled dangerously even when she only saw his back. Rob's hair was a mess in the wind. He wore his wolf fur coat, almost identical with the one he gave her. It made her feel like she was part of his pack. Which was weird, because she was supposed to be a lion, not a wolf. Sir Patrick mumbled something beside her. I'm sorry, what did you just say, sir? She reluctantly tore her gaze from Rob's back. I said you looked beautiful. That remark took her as a surprise. Thank you, sir. If I had the opportunity, I'd be happy to guard you again. When the war is over, come to Seaguard. We had this beautiful cliff with a view to the narrow sea. You will love it. It'd be nice, so she doubted she'd ever visit Seaguard. Yellow is your color, his eyes beamed at her. I believe you'd look as lovely in purple. Your coat though, he narrowed his eyes at the wolf fur on the collar of her coat. Is very much northern. Oh. It was because the coat was mine, came Rob's voice, deep and cold. Your Grace. Sir Patrick dipped his head. What are you doing? Rob asked, glaring at her. Myrcella pulled her hand from Sir Patrick's arm. Too late, Rob already saw it. She opened her mouth to answer, but Sir Patrick was faster. She used to take a walk in the afternoon, back then in Riverrun, Your Grace. I took her around the camp. I think the princess needs to get some air. Sir Patrick gazed at her, smiling from ear to ear. That smile died on his lips as soon as he caught Rob's eyes. She thought she heard Rob snorted. When her eyes found the courage to look at him, he was already staring at her. He looked somehow irritated. His jaw hardened while the blue eyes drilled right into her soul. Just by that, Rob made her feel guilty for some reason, and she hated the feeling. Stop looking at her, Rob snapped, and Sir Patrick looked baffled at the sudden ire. Take her back. All eyes now looking at them. Sheepishly Sir Patrick bowed and excused himself. Wait, Rob called just when Sir Patrick offered her his arm again. I will walk the princess myself. More confused than ever, Sir Patrick turned red and he hurriedly retreated to make way for his king. At first Myrcella was afraid when she saw Rob's hardened glare, but she stepped beside him anyway. His steps were long and rushed as he walked towards her pavilion. Walton and Pia, both looked confused, walking behind them in respectful distance. Just this morning Rob looked at ease, but now she was afraid she might offend him in any way possible. Your Grace. Did I offend you? Her voice barely a whisper, but Rob heard her all right. Am I allowed to be upset that he was hanging all over you? He shot back, rather coldly. She was confused by his remark. Rob's quick, long steps made her overwhelmed, especially because of her long dress and uneven terrain. He really is angry, she realized with a sense of sadness. I am sorry if I offended you in any way, she huffed, trying to follow his footsteps. I didn't think leaving my tent made you angry. Forgive me, Your Grace. He didn't answer and didn't even slow down. They quickly returned to her pavilion. Suddenly Rob grabbed her arm and turned towards Pia. Wait outside, he barked, before pushing Myrcella into the tent. I am sorry, she gasped as he almost shoved her, the grip on her arm hurting. It won't happen again. Please don't complicate, Sir Patrick. If Rob had been annoyed before, now he looks even furious. Why do you care? He demanded. I am his king. What is happening to him? Myrcella looked back deviantly at him. Didn't you just say this morning that you want to be a good king? Or was that a lie? Rob glared and released his grip on her arm. For the first time he seemed to be lost at words. Myrcella won't let him off easily. Although she was shorter than Rob, she stood as straight as possible despite having to look up to frown into the man's eyes. Sir Patrick was just being courteous. He only took me for a walk, comma. Stop saying his name, he hissed. Are you going to punish him for letting me take a short walk out? She almost shouted in desperation, afraid of what he'd do to the knight. Rob gritted his teeth. Don't leave your tent for any reason, he fumed, pulling her closer with a bruising grasp again. She breathed sharply to feel how strong his grip was, and the warm body heat emerged from him. I won't, she sobbed, hating herself for feeling so weak. She was terrified if anyone was hurt again because of her, whatever the reason. Most of all, his anger frightened her. Please forgive me. Don't hurt Sir Patrick. Stop crying, he sounded irritated, which made her tears flow even harder. Stop crying, please. Please, he was pleading now. Why do you always cry? Like when they were in Harrenhal's Godswood where Rob cupped her face, now he did the same to wipe her tears with his thumb. As he bent down, his face getting closer to hers. For a heartbeat she thought he might kiss her. She braced herself and closed her eyes. The kiss never came. Instead, Rob let her go and slumped into the nearest chair. Her heart was still beating erratically and she was gasping for air. There were big lumps in her throat, she felt like choking. Her eyes red and raw from dried tears. Forgive me, princess, he whispered. It was not honorable to yell at you like that. Please forgive me. I was not feeling myself, he frowned, looking a little lost. I want to be trusted by you, yet I didn't do anything. You did what you think is best, she replied quietly, you try to keep me safe. Did I, though? He gave her a heartbreaking look. I won't leave my tent again. Her voice trembled. Rob was silent for a moment before he rose to his feet. Please understand that it is dangerous for you to venture away from your pavilion. She nodded, keeping her head down. Forgive me, princess. No, forgive me, your grace. Can I ask something of you? Anything. Please don't take off that coat. Chapter 14. Chapter text. You have to eat. Myrcella pushed the bowl away. Even the smell makes her want to throw up. Pia sighed. Milady. You've been like this, since. She looked up to her friend, feeling her eyes raw and swollen from crying for days. Why do you always cry? She could hear Rob's voice, the sharpness in his tone made her feel weak and she hated herself for it. Yes. Myrcella asked. Did King Rob do something to you? She furrowed her eyebrows to hear the odd question. No. Shall I fetch Lady Brian to accompany you? Lady Brian has been gracious enough to engage her in civil conversation, even sometimes joined her for dinner. Brian was the one who told her nothing happened to Sir Patrick other than wounded pride. He has not come to see her again, but maybe that was for the best. Don't bother her. Myrcella reprimanded Pia. Shuddered on her sleeping pallet, she draped Rob's surcoat for warmth and comfort. The sound of soldiers screaming and shouting outside the tent pierced her ears and made her heart pound faster. The roaring sound continued until past midnight, celebrating the last gold mine Rob has taken. Few nights ago he marched to take the crag and gold mines around Castemaria. His forces burned and pillaged the area as his forces advanced deeper. Bearded or no, Rob was still a youth of 17 seeking vengeance no less than Lord Karstark, whose sons were slain. Those who returned alive and whole were carrying the spoils of war. They laugh, shout, and sing praises of their king. The injured were placed in recovery camps with the healers. The dead were left to be buried by the silent sisters. During the uproar she thought she heard children crying and a woman shout, but Pia shook her head. Don't think about it, Pia made her stop asking. She jumped every time the overlapping canvas door swung open, but it was only Walton checking on them. Tension and guilt hold the best of her, something she couldn't shake away. She wanted to see Rob. She wanted the shouting to stop. A woman shouting curses to laughing men. Who is she? What is happening outside? Who are they? It was draining. She longed for the serenity a godswood provided and dreaded that there were none in the area. Not even a single weirwood tree. Her grandfather's ancestor made sure of it. The Song of the Seven becomes her solace every time the men go to the battlefield. Rob was always with them. Watch over him and bring him back, she silently prayed. If the old gods cannot hear her, the seven must be. She has been a devout follower since she was old enough to climb the steps of the Great September of Baylor. Since she was about 10, she never failed to light candles at their statues every week. If she closed her eyes she could recall the rough sculpture of their marble faces, every grimace and every smile. Watch over Rob. Protect the innocents. End this war. I will never ask for anything again. Sewing always occupied her mind, easing the tension off her. When she finished a bodice for Pia, whose eyes immediately wet and Ursula blushed furiously because it was really just a humble gift, she began asking for any men-at-arms clothes who needed repair. They don't know, of course. Ursula forbade Pia from telling anyone who had sewed their clothes, lords, lowly knights or common soldiers alike. The workload became a much-needed distraction to push Rob and the war away from her mind. It is the least thing she could do, if not she could lose her mind. She only saw a glimpse of him in the distance. He was always surrounded by his companions, blending among furs and armors if not for his auburn curls that shine under the evening sun. To see him sends her heart leaping dangerously in the ribcage. The more she tried to ignore it, the more it dangerously grew bolder each passing day. She could sense him around her, sending absolute longing and peace altogether, knowing they are in the same place. A hole inside her has been filled just by knowing Rob was there, breathing. On one of the afternoons she sat to sew in front of her tent, their eyes accidentally met from across the field. For a split second the world stops spinning, noises disappear. There was only Rob. No one else matters. She was sure she floated into the depth of his eyes even from such a distance. It's frightening to know he went from a stranger to someone she completely infatuated with. Sometimes she questioned if this feeling was from the guilt she felt for House Stark. Because, what else is the most likely explanation for what she feels? The fact is, I don't hate you, Rob had said. You should hate me, as I should have hated you. Like our families did, and let any friendship die with Lord Eddard and King Robert. Can I take a bath, please? She looked hopefully at her friend, watching Pia put a small thick cloth inside her underwear. A bucket of water, reddened by her blood, was taken out from the tent by another servant. It had been more than a week without proper bath, her hair began to feel limp and the moon blood left her grubby. Ursula knew she shouldn't ask, Rob's order was to stay in her pavilion whatever the reason. But visualizing the crystal clear pool not far from her tent was so tempting. I will ask the king, milady. She smiled, thanking Pia sincerely for her effort before resuming her needlework. She had already finished a stack of men-at-arms clothes that needed repair, so now she turned her attention to resume an embroidery of her grandfather's land. The sun had set when Pia returned into the tent, looking ecstatic. The king said yes. I will prepare your clothes and we can go to the pool right away. Her happiness was soon spreading to Ursula as she stood up to abandon her needles. Did you see him yourself? Oh, yes, he was red as wine when I told him a lady needs to clean herself, Pia giggled. He knows how sticky to rinse out blood, doesn't he? We don't have any bathtub here in the middle of the woods. He said yes right away. And how is he doing? Pia stopped on her track to look at her, a bit taken aback. Ursula bit her bottom lip, trying to hide her nervousness. He is fine, milady. He asked about you too. He did. What was it? If you're alright and what you're doing lately. Oh. I told him you embroidered the Westernlands so beautifully, stretches green so far and wide. That you insisted repairing his men's clothes. And you sing the Song of the Seven every time he went to battlefield. She blushed right away. Why did you tell him that? Pia looked ashamed. Forgive me, I thought, comma. Doesn't matter, anyway. She shook her head. Shall we go? From the tall pines and sagebrush around the pool came no sound. It was still as a painting, no movement of branches and not even the sound of wild animals. She looked back to where the camp was and saw the orange hues of bonfires adorned the dark sky. Pia helped her to undress, folding the clothes into a small pile by the side of the pool. She hoped that Pia would join her, but no, her friend stood beside Walton behind a big pine tree. She can feel their closeness, the intimacy they shared. Sometimes she feels lonely because of it. Young as she is, she had never met a pair devoted to each other, not even her mother and King Robert. Come to think about it, the closest she could recall was perhaps her mother and Uncle Jamie. We don't choose whom we love, it's just beyond our control. Jamie's voice trailed from the back of her head. Slowly, she dipped her legs into the water. The water was cold but a welcome thing. Her action made the surface of the pool rippled in ever-widening circles until they disappeared to the opposite of the pool. Ursula slid down, sighed as the cold water embraced her frame completely. If she stands in the pool, her shoulders would slightly still be above the surface. It was a pleasant feeling to wash the smoke from her hair and moon blood from her legs. As she bathed, water dripped down from her hair and made their way on her skin that shined under the moonlight. A rustling sound from behind the bush startled her. Someone, or something, was heading towards the pool. Pia, she called. Would you like to join me? No answer. Pia had told her no one should know she was bathing. Not everyone as virtuous as Walton, her friend said. That was why she always took her for a bath in the night. Ursula decided it was time to finish her bath and swam to the edge of the pool. In her haste she pulled Rob's surcoat and slung it over her shoulders to cover her nakedness. She tried not to make any sound, fearing whoever behind the bush would find her. She thought of calling Pia or Walton again but decided against it. Her hand instinctively went to the small pocket she made on her dress, the fingers groping to find the little knife she had kept hidden. Just then a set of yellow eyes slowly emerges from behind the trees and she sighed in relief. Grey Wind. The direwolf, despite its size, padded gracefully to her. In her full height the direwolf has grown so tall that its dark snout was the same level to her nose. There was serenity in its gaze, also intelligence that she never saw in other animals. She could feel Grey Wind's warm breath as it sniffed the coat, recognizing the smell of its master before giving a muffled whine on her damp neck. She giggled when its long tongue tickled her ear. Hello to you. You seemed well. Did you take good care of Rob? She whispered to its ear. The direwolf kept nuzzling as an answer, kissing away water droplets. You're so big now, aren't you? Did you see my friends on your way here? She was naked under the coat and the wind blew softly. It slid down from her shoulders and fell to the ground. Before she could bend down to pick it up and cover her body again, the direwolf whined. The snout slowly trailed down from her neck to her chest, following the droplets on her body. A sigh escaped as Grey Wind's tongue touched her nipple. The friction between her sensitive skin and the tip of the direwolf's rough tongue made her shiver and, weird. She should have been scared, yet she was mystifyingly calm. They stared at each other, Grey Wind's mouth slightly open with ends turning up, almost appearing to be smiling. The big direwolf looked calm even though blood trickled lazily between her legs. Its golden yellow eyes gleam intelligently, never breaking eye contact. She felt like recognizing Grey Wind's solemn gaze. The air was humid. She savored the thickness as she breathed it in, heavy and cold at the same time. Walton announced she is expected to be in the king's royal tent after dinner. Her guard didn't relay more information, only said that someone will be sent to fetch her to the king. It was a clear night with no clouds above their heads. As she followed Lady Brian, she realized it was the first time she'd see Rob's place where he spent his time resting, if not preparing for war. The royal pavilion was guarded heavily by his companions of noble births, Stark and Baratheon sigils hanging at the entry. The banners flutter lazily by the evening wind. As usual she saw Grey Wind sitting at its master's heel when Lady Brian took her inside. The beast looked up from its resting place and she was almost sure if Grey Wind could smile it would give her the biggest smirk. Rob himself was standing behind a large table set up in the rear. He didn't look up from the letter he was reading, but nodded acknowledgement to Lady Brian's greetings. A wide folding screen was placed near the brazier, from the shadows it appeared to be where Rob's bed is placed. The men inside Rob's tent were clad in chainmail and armors even during the night, Sir Patrick among them. Their swords pointed dangerously at another group of 4, to her surprise bearing House Lannister's roaring lion. The youngest of the 4, visibly shaking, holding on a white flagpole he gripped so hard his knuckles turned white. They were tied together, shoulder to shoulder, using a rope. Myrcella didn't recognize any of them. "Are you satisfied?" Rob's deep voice cut the silence. "Aye, Your Grace. We will deliver your message back to the Queen Regent and Lord Hand. Go. You have until dawn to get out of the area before my men shoot arrows through your heart. My men will take them to Golden Tooth." Lord Bolton offered and Rob nodded his consent. The 4 men glanced at her one last time before their heads were covered in black. Now it left Rob and his direwolf, Lord Bolton, Sir Patrick, Lady Brian and her in the tent. She was unsure whether she should stay, but Rob has not ordered her to leave. Her head was spinning trying to put together what had just happened. So they were sent from King's Landing. Who are they? And they wanted to see her. Clearly Rob meant to show her for the men to report back to King's Landing. Did her mother send them? What do they want? Is this just her imagination that Rob seems to avoid looking at her? Her eyes were watching Rob as he made his way around the table. Several times she saw his stiff movements, especially if he had to move to his right. The corner of his mouth twitches every time he made it. The injury had not healed yet and Rob tried his best to conceal the pain. "It is good to see you again," Sir Patrick smiled as the man took his place beside her. "Sir Patrick, I am so glad you are doing fine. My apologies, our last stroll didn't end well. The blame was on me, sir. I shouldn't leave my tent without the king's permission. Perhaps another opportunity shall come our way." Princess the Knight smiles kindly at her. She thought she saw hope in his brown eyes, but she must have mistaken. Before she could offer a reply, Rob looked up from the table. Myrcella took the moment to ask Rob about the men. "They were sent by your uncle Tyrion." Rob informed her, somehow sounded a little vexed. "It seems they hardly believe I treated you well." Rob's face was of a tired man, there are dark circles under his eyes now and the auburn hair has just been trimmed. Myrcella cursed herself for thinking how unfortunately handsome he was, fidgeting at her fingers to shove away the disturbing thought. Even though she still sensed his ire and the fact he refused to look at her, she realized she was happy to be able to see him up close again. This was the first time they were in the same room since Rob yelled at her. "What did they want, Your Grace?" "You," he said plainly, still refusing to meet her eyes. Rob laid out a map and put wooden pawns shaped after noble houses' sigils on it. "They want the Kingslayer too. Also for my army to leave your grandfather's land." That was quite a lot, wasn't it? He slammed down a pawn onto the table, the wood cracked by the harsh impact. It was one of the Lannister lions. The overlapping canvas door flung open. Rob's highborn lords and lieutenants strode in led by the Blackfish, giving her a look but didn't say anything. Their eyes were pure resentment and detest that she had to look away. She glanced at the map where wooden pawns were already assembled in certain areas, lions in the west, in the Reach and in the capital. She saw stags in the King's Road and in Blackwater Bay. Wolves in the west, in the north, in the Riverlands. Krakens along the Iron Man's Bay and Cape of Eagles. All of them mingled with trouts, axes, arrows, roses, bears, moose, red stallions, hunters and all others. Sigils were moving yet only falcons and the sun pierced by a golden spear that had not joined the crowd. Lady Catelyn failed to persuade the Vale to join in. And Dawn, Myrcella thought of the faceless prince she was promised to. "I was supposed to bring Dawn to Joffrey's cause. She has to go," Lord Bolton said, leering at her with his strange eyes. "Your Grace, may I offer to take the princess to her pavilion?" Sir Patrick requested. Grey Wind growled, baring its teeth. "Lady Brian will do." Rob answered, nodded to Brian but still not sparing a glance at her. Brian escorted her back to her pavilion, bowing politely before she went back to attend Rob's council. Somewhat disappointed her encounter with Rob was only brief, not to mention his refusal to look at her. Myrcella resumed her needlework. After all, she was not sleepy either. She had added a grey wolf running on the green field of Westerland soon after her encounter with Grey Wind at the vernal pool. A lone wolf, she thought of Rob, feeling rather sad as she stroked the little wolf-shaped embroidery. She didn't know how far Stannis was to the capital to take the Iron Throne. If Robb's map is correct, he is close. What will happen to her brothers if the city falls? What will happen to her family? Stannis has to give them mercy, hasn't he? Robb would, she thought. Robb will never let any harm come to me, he told me just so. Robb will not hurt us. Myrcella clutches the handkerchief tighter. Robb is alone in the enemy's land, but whatever the outcome of this war, I'll not let them harm him. Dash. It was the hour of the wolf when Myrcella heard the deafening silence. She woke up from her sleep, shaking her head to chase away the reminder of her dreams. It was that bed of buttercup flowers again where she was laid motionless as if in death. Headless knights in crimson red groped her cold body. Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, they mocked her weakness. No voice came out of her throat when she tried to call for Robb. You promised to keep me safe, she pleaded in her dream. They continued groping and mocking her. Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, why are you always crying? She was relieved to be awakened, until she recognized the strange silence that alarmed her. Leaves rustled, but not by the wind. An eerie kind of tranquility that heightened all her senses. She knew it was close. There was only one kind of silence, in which a predator was near. Myrcella felt like she was in the mud of the Red Fork again, waiting for impending death. But only it was not death. She tiptoed towards the entrance and take a peek. Walton and her other guards sat at the entrance, snoring softly. She had to narrow her eyes to see through the darkness. Embers from the bonfire glowed yellow and red, but didn't give much help. It was then when a huge figure emerged from the darkness among the trees. A set of golden yellow eyes stares back at her, calling her to come closer. Hypnotized by its presence, Myrcella took a step out of the tent, careful enough not to make a startling sound. Grey Wind waited patiently. She was close enough to touch its fur when Grey Wind suddenly turned into the woods. For a moment Myrcella hesitated, should she follow the direwolf or just return to her tent? The obedient girl inside her was telling her to get back. The other side, the one who admires the thrill of the unknown, urged her to follow the direwolf. She was giddy by the two conflicting feelings. Although in the end, she followed her instinct as she quickly fell in behind Grey Wind. Perhaps she could take a walk with him, she justified herself. It was quiet and she could just scream if she ever needed help. She could not go back to sleep anyway. Her dreams only made her wake up feeling more tired than ever. Besides, she was not planning to run away. The direwolf knew the girl was following, so it padded casually ahead. She could still see Grey Wind's large figure walking silently even though it had grown as big as a horse. She felt safe just by looking at the direwolf, the same feeling whenever Robb was near. It should be fine, shouldn't it? They left the camping ground as trees closed in on them. Smooth leaves brushed against her arms, the woods decorated with outgrown giant roots, wild flowers and mushrooms and fallen leaves. The vernal pool hidden by the pine trees came to view, quenching the thirst of the woods. Grey Wind stopped to drink. Knowing a hunter was among them, the woods became very quiet. Owls stopped hooting. Crickets and frogs were reluctant to make a sound. Myrcella approached Grey Wind by the pool. She could feel Grey Wind's weight when the direwolf leaned against her palm. "Do you miss me, Grey Wind?" she asked the direwolf, smiling as she caressed the grey fur on the side of its stomach. Its eyes took her in when she finally retreated, casting loose one of her shoes to dip the toes in the cold water. It felt comfortable and safe even though she was accompanied by a giant wolf in the middle of the woods. She thought of Tommen and couldn't help but smiling. Tommen always has soft spots for exotic beasts and animals. "I missed my little brother, too," she told the direwolf. "He'd be very happy if he can meet you. My brother loves kittens, dragons, mermaids and direwolves. Until now he had only seen kittens. Imagine his happiness if he ever laid eyes on a beauty such as you, Grey. I hope you can meet him again, someday." Grey Wind looked at her with its golden yellow eyes. The grey fur shone like silver under the moonlight. Myrcella took off her other shoes and dipped both feet into the water. She sighed, pulling Robb's coat closer. The wolf's fur rubs against her cheeks, a familiar tingle she often seeks. I always think he'll take a ship and travel the world when he comes of age. Since he could talk, he always said he wanted to go on an adventure, perhaps to find a new continent. Can you believe it? Mother will have none of it, of course. She liked us close to her. The last time I saw my little brother, he pleaded to be allowed to sail to Dawn with me, she whispered to the direwolf. I asked him, what do you expect from Dawn? Our Septa said there's only desert as far as the eye can see. I want to see camels and dragons, he told me. Dragons. There are plenty of dragon's bones beneath the throne room, but Tommen never stopped hoping to see a living one. Did you know he was angry at our mother for not letting him see you and your little mates back then in Winterfell? Myrcella smiles at the memory. The direwolf looked at her closely as if it understood what she was saying. She almost believed it did. I hope they are safe in King's Landing. My uncle Stannis is drawing closer each day to them. And Robb, she had to stop to compose herself. You take good care of Robb, all right? Don't let anyone harm him. Grey Wind growled softly as an answer from its sitting ground. She had seen Robb's map. Soon he'll ride again. When that happens, this time which side will lose? She shuddered to even think about it. Whichever side, she will grieve the same. Was it selfish to hope their houses can stop hating each other and shed the blood of innocent? Deep down she knew that was not how the war proceeded, but still, she hoped. Is he sleeping already? Of course he is, isn't he? It's almost dawn. He needs that sleep. Don't you think he looks tired? I missed my family. Robb said he will take me back to them. Do you miss your pack? Don't you wish this war never happened? Grey Wind whined. When you see Robb, don't tell him I said these things, you promised, she whispered, cringing. Grey Wind's ears perked up and stood up abruptly. He growled before jumping away, disappearing behind the trees surrounding the pool. Grey Wind. The forest hums with life again, owls, crickets and frogs. She heard Grey Wind howl somewhere, perhaps it heard something or just went hunting. She pulled her feet from the water to saw the brim of her nightgown was soiled with mud. Pia will not be happy. It was always coldest just before dawn, and soon she began to shiver under the coat. She blew in the air and saw white mist evaporating from her mouth. Grey Wind did not return. Time to go back. Without Grey Wind, who knows what might linger behind the trees in the dark. Just as she prepares to leave, a twig cracked behind her. Myrcella whirled around and almost fell into the pool. Robb's hands were faster, he caught her forearms, preventing her from slipping as he pulled her, bumping to his chest. This is the second time I found you here, almost falling into the water, he grinned sleepily. How did you? I saw you in my dream, Robb supplied the answer. He wore a loose white shirt under his wolf's fur coat. He was standing so close to her that she could breathe in his scent, leather and pine and freshly cut timber. She blinked her eyes, desperate to block the irresistible smell from imprinting her mind. Your dream, she asked, dazed. Robb nodded, yawning. A pleasant change instead of hunting. It was not the first, though. This time when I woke up I thought I should take a look, just in case. His eyes were searching her, penetrating. And here you are, he looked as mystified as herself. She realized he was still holding her forearms. I am not trying to run away. Just wanna wash your face. Robb finished the sentence for her, smirking. Don't punish my guards. Don't hurt Pia and Walton. They didn't know I slipped away. I'm sorry, I've disobeyed you again. They didn't know, I swear, You worry about a lot of people, your knights of Patrek, your guards, your handmaid. Please, she begged, unable to hold her body from trembling under Robb's gaze. He released his grip. Fine. I will let this pass. You won't punish them, she couldn't believe her ears. No. Joffrey would, the thought came to her unbidden. Why are you not? Why are you full of forgiveness and consideration? Thank you. Your Grace. Why do you not even hate me? Silence fell awkwardly between them. Then she remembered her hair must be a mess, similar if not worse like the morning Robb found her by the vernal pool. This time, out of shock, she didn't hide herself. She let him look at her as she was, a mess with swollen eyes wrapped in the cloak he gave her. For the first time in her life she felt vulnerable and yet empowered under his gaze. "Don't you afraid that I'd run away?" she had to ask, out of curiosity for his generosity. "I know you won't." "Why do you trust me not to?" "Because I want to trust you, that's all." "Do you think it was a mistake?" "No," she replied meekly, feeling a bit embarrassed. How was your council meeting?" She cringed as soon as the question went out her mouth. "Why, are you a spy?" That smirk again. "I am not a spy." "Of course a spy would deny being one." "I apologize. I shouldn't ask such sensitive questions." No one would believe his eyes if they see them. She was technically his hostage, she lived only because of his mercy. He could have imprisoned her or gave her to his men, perhaps even let Lord Karstark kill her and be done with it. Why they are talking like friends was beyond her comprehension. Didn't Robb once comfort her when she broke down after seeing Jaime? The memory never fails to make her blush. She wanted to understand why Robb treated her well when people thought all Lannister are bad. "It went well, I think. Also tiring," Robb said, taking her mind back from its reverie. He did look exhausted and sounded sleepy. "You should go back to sleep, Your Grace." "Don't tell me to go away, Princess, not when I finally got to see you." "You have seen me before, Your Grace. When Lady Brian took me to your tent to show off to my uncle's messenger." Myrcella reminded him, her voice somewhat defensive for unknown reasons. "At that time you didn't even want to look at me. But why am I even annoyed at the fact? It must be due to that strange vibration again, coming from inside her." She could feel it too in the air, in the wind that hits her face, in her legs that were trembling from being submerged in the pool. How it made her skin crawl like she was electrified. Robb gave her a sideway look, sighing. "You know it is not safe for you to be alone in the woods, right? You have to stop doing this." "Forgive me," she flinched at his words, knowing full well that she was to blame. To her surprise Robb was chuckling. "I know you're just like Arya in this matter. With Sansa's courtesy, no doubt. I sensed it in you. Was that a good thing? I saw Grey Wind and I thought it wouldn't hurt to be with him. I was just about to get back when you came." She felt the urge to explain. "So that meant you have done washing your face?" Myrcella could feel the heat growing in her cheeks. It only made Robb's smile grow even wider as he studied her for a moment. The blue eyes looked at her closely. She returned his gaze, letting herself sink into the depth of his face. The sculptured jaw, the thick eyebrows above his cloudless sky-blue eyes, the pupils enlarged in the dark night. And, to her surprise, his lips. It was thinner at the top with a natural Cupid's bow. She tried to focus her sight on his eyes again. "Sir Patrek offered to guard you. He seemed quite fond of you." Robb was standing too close to her liking, making her afraid he could hear her irregular heartbeats. When she didn't answer, Robb blinked, furrowing his eyebrows like he was having internal struggle. He moved to leave the pool. "Walk with me, Princess." She followed him in silence, walking on naked earth among giant roots and fallen leaves. Their footsteps were muffled by the sounds of crickets and owls, or was it because her heart was beating so loud? He didn't offer his arm for her to hold, but turned every few seconds to make sure she was safe next to him without tripping over the end of her wet dress. The woods were darkest just moments before the first light appeared, but there was peace in it. Fear left her even when Robb steered her deeper in a direction she has never explored before. Rows of pine trees narrowed. She looked up to see the shy shade of the sun which would soon rise in the eastern horizon. "Where are you taking me?" She watched him move. The warrior in him made every movement poised. "Your Grace." As an answer Robb unexpectedly stopped and bent down to take something. She heard him take a sharp gasp when his stomach pressed down on the injured part, but bit back the desire to reach out to him. When he straightened again there was a flower in his hand. Buttercup, she realized. Without saying a word he held it out to her, and when she did not protest Robb tucks it behind her ear. His finger stayed long after the flower was pinned, caressing the cartilage. Every sense in her body instantly yields to him. Only her mind was telling her to pull away. To run. To hate. To. "The knife," Jaime's voice reminded her. "No," she rebuffed the voice. No. Instead she closed her eyes to feel Rob. And she did feel him entirely, the way she knew his body moved to close the distance between them, the way his index finger studied the curve of her ear with the roughness of his fingertip. Finally the morning sun shone through the gaps of trees and fell on the forest floor. Feeling the contrast warm on her cold skin, Ursula opened her eyes and gasped. They were standing in the middle of a flower bed. Yellow petals shine like fields of gold under the sun rays as the forest floor was filled with buttercup flowers, growing stubbornly at the foot of giant trees. I found this place some days ago, Rob said, the tone husky. I've thought about bringing you here to see it, before. He let out a breath like he was holding it the whole time. Before I saw your little stroll with him. She realized he wanted to make amends. His way of saying he was sorry. It's beautiful, Your Grace. Thank you. Rob's hand slowly fell from her ear to caress the wolf fur draped over her shoulders. You didn't take off the coat, he murmured. High above them a bird sings melodious chirping cascading through tree branches. She couldn't deny how she feels at ease here, with the king in the north. Are you going to ride again? She whispered, remembering his map. Yes. Do you have proper armor, now? You sounded like my mother, he protested, grinning. Well, the north cannot lose their king, can they? And your injury has not even fully recovered. Rob laughed. It was the kind of laughter that was contagious, and she found herself laughing too, even though she was blushing. She has taken too much liberty talking to him. What makes Rob so different from the rest of her brother's court? Talking to him was like a dance, it comes naturally, and once she allowed herself to be pulled into his aura, it became beautifully chaotic. Are you going to win the war? Her question caught him off guard and he frowns. I don't know, he said truthfully. There are 3 other kings in the realm right now. But you are not competing for the Iron Throne. No, he confirmed. Don't speak a word, Jaime's voice scolded her. Your Grace, she tried to suppress her doubt. No, Jaime's voice sounded so far away. Yes. I think you should make direct appeals to other lords. You are a fool. She could hear her uncle's voice in the back of her head, angrier. Are you a lion, or a wolf? I've heard rumors that Jon Arryn's death was a foul one. And your father was fostered in the Vale, grew up inside its halls. If you make direct appeals to the Vale lords, they'd have been honor bound to avenge their lord and your father. She hoped her voice was clear enough since her hands were visibly shaking. She had never offered her thoughts to anyone before. Her mother never cared to listen, she was groomed all her life to be some princeling or lordling's prize bride, and her septa taught her a lady should not offer her opinion unless she was asked. She paused to give Rob a chance to shut her up, but he only stood there, listening. When Jon Arryn was alive, I knew he planned to foster young Robin in Storm's End. His wife loudly refused this and took her son back to the Eyrie. Adding that a Kingsguard appointed warden in the east would be seen as an insult by the Valiman, wouldn't it? You should try to talk to them again, Your Grace. A full minute passed without Rob saying a thing. His eyes fixated at her like he was looking at her for the first time. Forgive me. I understand you don't need to be pleased with my thoughts. I was rude. No, it was true. Rob said suddenly, eyes lit up under the morning sun. Though my aunt might not have it. She may call it treason for her bannermen to disobey their liege lord, but he has that solemn look on his face while he was thinking, the thick eyebrows furrowed. My great-uncle Brynden was in Lady Arryn's service before he left to be in mine. He told me the Waynwoods, Royces, Templetons and Redforts are among those who would like to join the war as well. Come to think about it, you might be right, Princess. When my aunt refused to send her army, it was because they had to protect her son. Then she will do everything to keep Robin by her side, not from being taken to King's Landing. Her chance is better if she joins Stannis Baratheon and you. What you've just said, even my council failed to bring forward such thoughts. Your Grace, I didn't mean, comma. Thank you, he cuts in, the smile on his face sincere. But why are you telling me this? You are alone, was all she whispered, as baffled as him. I just wanted you to be safe. You know I am not. I have an army. A wolf belongs with his pack, never alone. Joffrey's smug face came to her mind. Where does your loyalty lay, Sweet sister, she could hear his voice and instinctively shivered to think what Joffrey would do if he knew what she had just done. The scar on her back felt itchy. She had long forgotten that the scar was even there. Am I a traitor to my family? Yes, you are, Jaime's voice followed, gentle yet heavy with regret. Chapter 15. Chapter text. Catelyn. She had reached the southernmost of the Seven Kingdoms for her son. The summer sea was close by and she could smell the salty water. Her legs cramped, she had this headache since fortnight ago and sleep has not been friendly to her. She was not built for long journeys, especially ones with a lack of rest. But we don't have time, she said to herself as she urged Sir Roderick and their horses further south. Rest can wait, after all of my children are safe. As Sunspear came to view, a strong, fortified castle built largely of mud and straw, she commanded her entourage to ride full speed into its gate. The wheels that hold the wagon creaking hideously at the speed they took, sometimes she thought the wheels would give up and break. Stark's banner along with Stannis Baratheon's flutters in the wind as 6 men rode from the castle to meet them halfway, bearing Martell's sigil, the red sun pierced by a golden spear on an orange field. Between Stark and Baratheon sigils stood the third banner of a white flag. Halt, the riders threatening their spears at them. We come in peace and good faith, good sirs, in the name of Robb Stark the king in the north and Stannis Baratheon the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. Catelyn spoke up while lowering the shawl that covered her auburn hair. I am Catelyn Stark. The men looked to each other, clearly distrustful. What is inside the wagon? Their leader asked. Gregor Clegane's bones, a gift for Prince Doran Martell. Upon hearing the name, the guard nodded. 2 of them rode back to the castle first, while the rest took their time and escorted them to the Tower of the Sun which contains the Dawn Prince's throne room. Though it was called the throne room instead of a great hall, there was no throne inside. A dais was erected in the center of the room with several chairs completely far from a throne. The entire room was decorated in House Martell's colors. The walls were studded with precious stones, rich tapestry and on one of the chairs sat a handsome man. His face showed no expression when she approached. He holds a spear in his right hand. He is bearing steel, Catelyn thought. Though it was more common to use a sword in the north, she had heard of Prince Oberyn's weapon of choice. A lord or host bearing steel in front of a guest only meant one thing, that the guest is not welcome in his hall. Lady Catelyn of House Stark, in the name of Robb Stark the king in the north and Stannis Baratheon the rightful heir to the Iron Throne, she heard the herald said. My lady, you are received by Prince Oberyn of House Martell. Catelyn curtsied. Prince Oberyn, my lord, thank you for welcoming us, I have not given you any guest right, Lady Stark, he cuts in. Nor do I welcome you in our land and hall. This won't be easy. I understand, my lord. I came bearing a gift for Prince Doran. My brother is not feeling well. You must have heard about the gout. Unfortunately I have, my lord. I begged him for a fast recovery. No, he won't, Oberyn said as a matter of factly. My brother sends his warmest regards and his regret that he cannot receive you. But please, state your meaning here, my lady. As soon as I officially reject any offer you made, I can resume my other activities. She gestured to the wooden chest to be brought in front of Oberyn Martell, who sat straighter as it was placed below the dais. A letter from Robb was given, received by the Maester at the feet of the dais. The Maester showed Oberyn the direwolf sigil, who nodded before the Maester opened the letter. He then resumed by whispering something to Oberyn, placing the letter for the prince to see for himself. Oberyn nodded to the wooden large box. Open it, he commanded his guards. The wooden chest was bigger than any box she had ever seen. 3 men tried to break the wax seal and when their efforts finally paid off, a foul odor filled the room. She wanted to look away and try to hold back her nausea, but Oberyn Martell's face looked calm as he stared at the content of the box, unblinking. So it is true, Oberyn finally said, still looking into the chest. He even raised from his seat to take a better look. Gregor Clegane's bones, as a good faith token for Dawn. Catelyn confirmed. The corpse, or rather what was left of the mountain, was almost devoid of flesh and skin. His head was cut off from his body, apparently that was what ended or at least made sure the monster was dead. His whole body had decomposed badly and his flesh fell out from the bones. Even with the flesh rotting, She could see how torn the body was. On his death he even looked menacing, taller and bigger than any average man, his corpse laid more than 2 meters long. It seemed the mountain didn't go down easily. She shuddered and thanked the old gods and the new for keeping Rob safe from the monster. Pity I didn't slain him myself, Oberyn nodded. He clicked his fingers and servants came out bringing plates of bread, meat and salt. Welcome to Sunspear, Lady Stark. My brother and I will meet you this evening after you freshen up. Catelyn breathes a sigh of relief. Thank you, Prince Oberyn, thank you. She was grateful for the opportunity to rid herself of sand and dust from her journey, before meeting with the Prince of Dorne. She heard a lot about Prince Doran Martell, even though she had never met him in person. If the rumors are half true, Doran is considered shapeless and meek, contrary to the ferocious Oberyn Martell. He has not been much seen publicly since he was paralyzed with gout gnawing in his feet. She will find out soon enough, whether her trip to Dorne was in vain or whether it brought change to Robb and Stannis's cause. She didn't bring many material things with her, but she had prepared a simple dress that was thin enough for Dorne's warm climate. The dress was dark grey with high-collared white lace. Ned's colors. Lady Stark, Sir Roderick's voice pulled her from her reverie. It is time. A guard was sent to fetch her from her room. Accompanied by Sir Roderick and Sir Winfrey, she followed the guard. At first she thought she was taken back to the Tower of the Sun, yet they made a new route deeper into the castle, passing a lush garden with exotic flowers and into a large quarter. It was also richly decorated, even more so than the throne room. Tapestries hung on the brick orange walls, one of them depicted the fall of Rhaenys Targaryen and her dragon Meraxes during the First Dornish War. Giant arched windows on the other side of the room, curtains waved in the afternoon breeze. The rectangular chamber was bathed in red and orange light. A tall, dark-skinned man holding a battle axe greets them in the arched door. Aereo Hotter, the prince's sworn shield, he introduced himself. Prince Doran is waiting. Doran Martell, a man of mid-50 but appeared like he was in his 80s, sat on his wheelchair. His body is soft and skinny, the gout has swollen and reddened the joints of his hands. A velvet golden blanket covers his legs and feet to block the sight of his gout. Lady Stark, what a pleasant visit. His voice was sultry and kind. He used to be handsome before falling to his sickness. Oberyn Martell stood beside him on his left and a third man by his right. Apologies for not receiving you earlier. You must have met my brother, Oberyn. This is my son and heir, Tristan. He gestured to the man on his right, a handsome young man no more than Robb's age with olive skin and short black hair. The honor is mine, Prince Doran, thank you for kindly welcome us in your hall. Your gift is also kindly received, my lady. Tell me how he died. I am afraid I can't, my lord. My son Robb slew him in battle when Gregor Clegane torched and ravaged my father's land. I was not there to witness it. He committed many unspoken atrocities. My brother has often talked about various ways to finish off the mountain that rides. Doran nodded, his black eyes lingered on his brother. Now tell me, my lady, we've heard of kings appearing in many corners of this realm. Your arrival as a mother of one of the new kings makes me wonder a little. Yes, my lords. My son has waged war with the Iron Throne for the murder of his father and my lord husband, Eddard Stark. We demand sovereignty from the Iron Throne. We have allied with Stannis Baratheon, whom my husband supported as the rightful heir to the throne upon learning that King Robert's children are not rightfully his. That was a very serious accusation, Oberyn said coolly. You cannot prove they are bastards. No, but there's a book, Catelyn said stubbornly, written some 70, 80 decades ago called The Lineages and Histories of the Great Houses of the Seven Kingdom. My husband smuggled the said book along with a letter to Stannis Baratheon. Every time a Baratheon and a Lannister mated, all of the children inherited the Baratheon looks. If at least one of them inherited their father's traits, perhaps we can rest the case. Yet all the Queen's children do not have any Baratheon traits. King Robert has 2 true-born children and Stannis Baratheon is the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. Lady Stark, one of them is promised to my son, Doran reminded her. She has not come here. I believe your son can explain. He cheated us a princess, some Dornishmen could think it was an insult. Your son is promised a bastard. She didn't know what came to her to say that in front of the most powerful men in Dorne, but Oberyn smirked at her reply. The Lannisters failed to send her to Dorne. My son found her in the Red Fork, dying. Robb didn't cheat you anything or try to insult Dorne in any way, my lords. Bastard or no, your son should have sent her to Dorne. The young man, Tristan, spoke up for the first time. I hope he is not enchanted with the girl Oberyn teased. I've heard she has her mother's beauty, if not prettier. And men, young or old, fell to pretty faces easily. I do hope the same, my lord, Catelyn thought bitterly. What now, my lady? Your son took my son's betrothed and sent our enemies bones. If he wants swords and spears, I will not drag my people to war. I've seen it, misery and pain were all we get. Doran said sadly. Her heart sank. My lord, indeed we need your swords and spears. Perhaps you don't believe it, but us northerners, we remember. We remember how Prince Luwin perished in the Trident in Robert's rebellion. We remember Princess Elia Martell and her 2 infant children, murdered by the Lannisters. Don't, Prince Doran warned, his eyes sparkling with tears. Don't speak of my sister and her children as if I don't want their murderer brought to justice. My uncle Luwin perished in the war. We are facing the same enemy. I cannot risk any more Dornishmen. My lords, you are not the only envoy to be sent here, Lady Stark. Tristan Martell spoke up again. He wanted to say more but Doran's raised hand stopped whatever he wanted to say. Yes, it is true, Doran nodded, weary. The Lannisters sent their envoy. They sent a mockingbird. Oberyn offered. Petter. And they were not welcome in Sunspear. We only talk if Princess Myrcella was brought back to my brother's son, or the mountain's bones. Oberyn gave her a sly smile. I am afraid we are done here, Lady Stark, Doran said softly. Please be welcome in our hall. You may stay as long as you wish. Now if you will excuse me. My lords, please, you are asking us to join an open rebellion against the Iron Throne. I am a mother who asked help to keep her children safe, however she could. Lady Stark, I am afraid these rebellions meant nothing to us. Wolves and krakens and stags. We supported the dragons until their last Dragon King. My house has bled quite a lot. Butchered by the lions. Huddled beneath their crimson red to hide the blood. Are you asking me to seek revenge? I am pleading with you to seek revenge, my lord, she stated boldly. As do the whole Dorne. Doran shook his head. Tristan shifted his gaze from her to his father, while Areo Hotter stood idly behind the prince, his face emotionless to witness their exchange. Oberyn didn't say a word. Doran sighed. It was kind of you to bring the mountain's bones this far. However, I apologize, I cannot risk any Dornishman's blood in such an open rebellion again. You do realize if the promised princess reached Dorne, then we might not have this conversation at all. Which makes me wonder, what will happen to her? The time will come when this war produces a winner. Either your son is going to hand over the princess to us, to her betrothed, or let Stannis kill her if he wins the Iron Throne. The princess is my son's hostage, her presence guarantees my daughter's safety in the hands of the Lannisters. Ah, what a shame. Doran rang a bell and a servant hurriedly came to his side, ready to wheel him away. So, my lord, you will leave your sister, your niece and nephew murdered in vain. Catelyn wanted to scream at him, frustration building inside her. I never said I was fine with their brutal deaths, Lady Stark. I was saying I will not send my army so far north, risking my people in open rebellion. His tone was cold and calculative. At that moment Catelyn saw the power Doran has behind his limitations. His face was calm and unreadable, but the sparkle in his eyes was dangerous. Just before Doran and Tristan disappeared behind a curtain, the Dawn Prince turned to her again. I shall leave my brother Oberyn in your company. You two may have more things to discuss. Thank you, my lord. She couldn't do anything but nodded politely, thanking him for his time. Oberyn poured wine for both of them. Can we talk in private, Lady Stark? Sir Roderick and Sir Perwyn gave her a wary look, but she nodded and they left the chamber. As soon as they were left alone, Oberyn sat in front of her, crossing his long legs. His dark eyes examined her. He was truly a handsome man, with dark curly hair cut short, thick eyebrows and strong jaws. Do you truly believe the part that all King Robert's children are not his? Oberyn opened the conversation casually. I do, my lord. It was all written in Stannis Baratheon's letter, a man of law and honor, informed by my lord husband, and he was murdered for it by the Lannisters. Oberyn smiled. So do I, he said, and his smile widens at her expression. Yet I managed to dig a little deeper. I believe your husband did the same as me because he was so sure about the Queen's children. And what was it, my lord? You were right when you said about heritage, Lady Stark. Doran and I found at least tens of Robert's bastards scattered around the capital. We believe there is more in the rest of the Seven Kingdoms, he chuckled. All of those children supported Baratheon's tray of black hair, as black as the night. She let out a breath. Prince Doran and you, my lord. Yes. We are closer than what people think and assume, Lady Stark. Then why, why did he refuse to send our army to your son and Stannis? Oberyn raised a brow, the glitter in his eyes never fades. My brother, Doran, I loved him as much as I loved my little sister Elia. Doran loved her too, don't get him wrong my lady, but he has a kingdom to look after. He couldn't shed any more Dornishman's blood in a war against the Lions. You see, we've lost dearly since our last participation in an open rebellion. But Oberyn paused to sip his wine again. This is my opportunity to avenge my sister and her children. Doran can look after his people, while I take care of our sister. I will gladly be on your son and Stannis' side, as long as they give me the Lannisters. She wanted to cry and kneel to him if her hands were not too shaken. Thank you, my lord. Don't thank me yet. Oberyn poured himself again and brought the cup to his lips to drink deep. Doran and I were able to save one of Robert's bastards from the purge carried out by that stupid little king. He managed to get out of King's Landing, wandering with a group headed to the wall. I beg your pardon, she cannot believe her ears. Oberyn gave her the sly smile again. Would you like to meet him? Before she could answer, Oberyn clapped his hands. A hidden door behind a tapestry flung open, and from behind it emerged a tall, young figure. The muscled lad was dressed neatly in a clean brown cotton jerkin. He has blue eyes and bushy jet black hair, as dark as the night. A dimple peeks shyly when he speaks. Yes, lord. Robert's bastard. Catelyn thought, out of breath. She only met Robert twice in their youth, and the lad in front of her exactly like a young Robert comes to life. He could even be Renly's twin in a more muscular, younger fashion. Oberyn laughed at her response. This is Gendry Waters. Gendry, meet Lady Catelyn of House Stark, mother of the king in the north. The lad's eyes widened. Your Lady Stark, he said, clearly caught off guard before he realized he was talking to a highborn lady. Gendry lowered his eyes. Lady Stark, he fell to his knees, bowing deep. Forgive me, lady. Did you happen to know Lady Stark? Gendry seemed surprised. I was just familiar with the house, lord. He mumbled something about the wall and someone named Uri. Gendry is a talented smith. Oberyn said. Are you? Catelyn could not take her eyes off the boy. His resemblance to Robert and Renly was too uncanny, it still surprised her. I apprenticed in Toib Homart's workshop in King's Landing, lady. Before I was released from his service and travelled north to the wall, lady. The lad had stood up again but still didn't dare to look away from his feet. Oh, she replied meekly, clutching her hands on her lap. Are you planning to join the Night's Watch? It seems so, lady, especially after I didn't know where else to go after my master's workshop. He looked embarrassed. But of course, lord found me and brought me here. She turned her gaze to Oberyn, who is still nursing his goblet, smiling ear to ear. Robert's bastard is hidden away in Dorne. Doran and Oberyn are up to something. If not, why bother to take a bastard and not let him die? The lad talking about his apprenticeship in one smithy in the capital also raises her suspicion. How could a bastard afford it? The timing was not right either. The bastard left King's Landing shortly before the purging took place. He was with an entourage to the north before being taken by Doran and Oberyn. As if reading her mind, Oberyn put his goblet on the table and laughed. Doran is renowned to be secretive, Lady Stark. He is excruciatingly careful, weighing the risks of all actions he takes. Our father often joked it was a blessing Doran is the older one. Not me, not Elia. You are planning this for so long, my lord, her tone cold, accusing, but she didn't care. Yes, he didn't even deny it. Doran took a watchful eye, biding his time. We take care of one of Robert's bastards and keep him alive and useful in that blacksmith's place, paying for his apprenticeship. And you were right, Robert's 3 children are not his true-born. That makes what we have, Gendry, very valuable. When Jon Arryn revealed his suspicions, we already had ours. Lord Arryn was dead not long after. Pain in the stomach, according to them. But I think it was tears of the lies. Murdered, for what he almost discovered. So did your husband. She glanced at the lad, still looking intently at his feet. He looks innocent, even tends to look a little afraid even though he is large and stocky, thanks to forging iron and steel for years. Oberyn clicked his fingers again and Gendry bowed, clearly relieved to leave the chamber. He disappeared again to the hidden door behind the tapestry. What is your plan, my lord? Oberyn leaned back in his chair. He had that kind of haughty expression that he didn't seem to notice when he smiled faintly. The dark eyes shone like Doran's, even more dangerous and oozing of bloodlust. A viper's eyes, Catelyn thought. Doran will not send our army marching north. No, they will defend Dorne and its people, Lady Stark. But me, I was the second son, the spare to Doran. When Tristan was born and followed by his little sister Arianne, Dorne's heir was enough. Since I was young I've travelled from Braavos to Lys, from Skagos to Southshield. I've walked through the Dothraki Sea. I even forged 5 chains in Old Town before it bored me. So I went to fight in Meereen's darkest pits, but soon it bored me, too. I came to join the Second Sons, befitting of my line, wasn't it? He chuckled merrily. Somehow, what happened to Elia and her children never left me at peace. Catelyn didn't know what to say at that. What I'm going to tell you, my lady, shall not leave this room, do I have your word? If you help my son's cause, then yes, my lord, you have my word. Oberyn smiled. Dorne, through me, will help you to get your revenge. We have the same interests, after all. Together we will erase House Lannister from history. Doran will deny his involvement in this, sitting idly in Sunspear with his heirs. Your 2 men that had just left will confirm that we, the Martells, turned down offers from Robb Stark and Stannis Baratheon. The desert wind was blowing from the arched window, bringing sand with it. Temperature was a funny thing in Dorne, scorching hot in the day but eerily cold like the north during night time. One look at Oberyn Martell's handsome face and she saw his determination plastered all over. The man was not joking, he wants blood and war, in his own way. She took time gulping down the wine in her goblet, reflecting on his words just now. You told me about erasing House Lannister. Yes. The assassination of Tywin Lannister, Cersei Lannister, Joffrey Baratheon, and all those bearing the proud roaring lion. What about your nephew's betrothal to the Lannister princess? Baratheon, he corrected her merrily, when House Lannister falls, given the news Stannis had spread throughout the 7 kingdoms, she will be worthless. Especially if Stannis successfully claims the Iron Throne, she will be seen as a threat, as will the children she delivers someday. Doran did not wish to continue their betrothal. Actually, the fact your son has the princess makes everything easier, it gave a reason for Dorne to remain passive. The new information she obtained gave her a headache. She hoped Ned was by her side, or Robb, so that she could share the burden, but Ned was dead, and Robb was hundreds of kilometers away. Her fate and her children depended on how she must give Robb as many supporters as possible in the War of the 5 Kings. One king has fallen, who knows who is next? The hair on her neck stood eerily when she realized someone was standing behind her, slipping silently, and she turned to see who it was. She almost let out a muffled scream when she saw the girl, fair with golden hair, dimples bloom in her cheeks. The Lannister girl. Was Catelyn's first thought, before she recognized the girl's eyes were deep blue and not green. The girl's hair was also short with no curls, cut just below the chin. Lady Stark, she purred, gentle and soft, almost like humming a melody. My daughter, Tyenn. Oberyn announced proudly. She has heard about Oberyn Martell's natural daughters, the Sand Snakes, people called them, cunning and dangerous like their father. Oberyn had fathered them on different women. Something seemed to float and landed with a loud thud behind Tyenn. Caitlin gasped when she saw another woman standing straight in front of her. Did she just jump from the ceiling? Caitlin glared at the woman. She wears a man's breeches, calf-length linen tunic and a belt of copper suns. A whip and round shield of steel and copper strapped to her slender waist. Oberon, my lady, the second woman introduced herself. She did not have her half-sister's beauty. The hair was rat brown tied to a knot, with close-set black eyes and broad jaw. Yet her face was as determined as her half-sister, the eyes just as bloodlust as her father. These two must be his two eldest. My two eldest daughters. Oberon smiles proudly, confirming her suspicion. What is the meaning of this? She didn't mean for her voice to be cold and distant, yet it was what she felt. The vengeance you're looking for, my lady. The Mockingbird offered Dawn a seat in Joffrey's council, and I am the delegation my brother sent on his behalf. She wanted to send a raven to Robb, telling him that she rides back to him as fast as she can. She wanted to send another raven to Winterfell too, to Bran and Rickon, her babies, telling them that she is safe and she is trying her best to help Robb and that they will be home soon, but she was advised it was not wise to do so. Moreover, Robb must have been very deep in the Westerlands, moving places as he successfully took Tywin Lannister's lands, castle by castle, mines by mines. The absence of news about him made Caitlin believe Robb was alive. If he is injured or, gods forbid, dead, surely the news would be spreading like wildfire throughout the Seven Kingdoms. She had left Robb for weeks. She could not wait to return to his side, giving him counsel and support. The information she had learned from the Martells must also be conveyed immediately. Oberyn and Doran have conspired their plans well for years, plotting silently. They were just waiting for the right opportunity, a commotion, to set their revenge in motion, and the War of the Five Kings gave them just that. When they left Sunspear, Oberyn rode on his large black horse, looking prowess even in his damask. The confidence he radiated made her a little wary. He only took a handful of household guards, men he claimed he personally trained and sparred with for years since he came back to Dorne from his adventures. It is not an army, even fewer than 100 men, but it was a relief that at least Dorne would not send any troops or assistance to the capital. The plan Oberyn shared with her, and Sir Roderick was leaving her many details. All she knows was Tyen will be in the Great September of Baelor with the High Septon, while Oberyn returns with her to Robb. Oberyn himself will be in King's Landing, waiting, as he sits in the small council apparently as a token of good faith to bring Dorne's support for the Iron Throne. If only the Lannisters know. She glanced at Oberyn. The girl was dressed in grey tunic and trousers, a black cloak draped over her shoulder. She did not wear any of her house sigils, and her hair has now been cut shorter, so at first glance she looks like a teenage boy instead of a woman. Oberyn returned her gaze and nod, before urging her horse to the front column. You haven't told me about Gendry Waters, my lord. What are your plans for the boy? Caitlin and Oberyn rode some distance away from their group, bidding a moment to speak one last time before parted ways. Caitlin will take a ship from Planky Town, across the narrow sea and land as close as possible to Crackclaw Point. To support Stannis Baratheon's claim, of course, Lady Stark, he answered nonchalantly. And how is it done? Rest assured, my lady, the lad is better hidden in Sunspear until the time he is needed. There is nothing you need to worry, except battles that will soon come upon us. Pray that your son and all those on his side come out victorious. We are going to need that. My daughter is still in King's Landing. I will find her. Oberyn said. There was a sense of confidence in his voice that made Caitlin somehow breathe a sigh of relief. At least her daughter will have a friend in the Red Keep. They separated not far from the city gate. Oberyn and his entourage rode towards Prince's Pass, while Caitlin stopped at Planky Town. She wore a hood and veil that covered her face and auburn hair, as Doran suggested. There were no banners on display. They went to the port where Doran already prepared a ship that would drop them off at Crackclaw Point, before resuming their journey to Gulltown and White Harbor. Their journey should be faster by the sea, particularly if the winds were kind. In 7 days, she'd set foot on land again. The first thing she did after disembarking was to send Sir Winfrey to find Stannis Baratheon. Every commoner they met gave word that Stannis was almost at the gates of King's Landing, surrounding the capital by land and sea alike. Caitlin could only hope she was not too late. It is important that you meet Stannis himself and give the letter only to him, sir. Remember, to Stannis only and not to another person, not even his hand or his priestess. Yes, my lady. The letter was written hastily, with only a grey wolf seal. In the darkest pit of vengeance we have found an ally, she wrote. Make sure Sansa Stark is safe. Chapter 16. Notes. Hello. Sorry I am not so often writing notes. Happy Smiley. This is a therapeutic writing for me, a coping mechanism for my mental health. Apologies again for any misspelling, grammar error. That asterisk certainly asterisk I did not intend. I've no beta, no proofreader so far other than a few apps, and English is not my native language. Also, please refer again to warnings and tags to make sure that is what you get in this fic. Thank you for sticking in so far in this. Much appreciated. X. See the end of the chapter for more notes. Chapter text. Myrcella. Robb asked her to come to his pavilion that evening. She had just finished her dinner with Lady Brian when Robb's squire, Oliver Free, came with the invitation. Pia tightened Robb's surcoat on her shoulder and she was escorted by Lady Brian and Oliver to the royal tent. Along the way she noticed men busy sharpening swords, tending to their armors or just sitting by the fire. Some of them glanced at her, making her shrunk beneath Robb's coat. They hate me, she heard herself say, tired with the looks people throw at her. Better the hate that is given plainly, than someone who is nice but stabs you in the back, princess. Brian slightly sped up her pace. Come. They passed a pavilion bearing a soaring silver eagle. Sir Patrick had just stepped out of the tent when their eyes met and Myrcella returned the man's smile. He was with Sir Darin Hornwood and a large man she recognized as the Great Jon Umber, all three clad in their armors. She could feel Sir Patrick's eyes following her until she went into Robb's tent. Myrcella just realized that Robb's pavilion was erected surrounded by other pavilions that must be his companions of noble birth. She did not see Grey Wind, thinking the beast might already be inside Robb's tent. Yet when they finally entered the warm royal tent, the direwolf was nowhere to be seen. Fire was burning in the braziers. Without his men cramming the royal tent, she could see how practical Robb kept his space. There were no personal items whatsoever. One large wooden table is used to hold councils, one smaller table across the tent, and on her right a lattice folding screen gives privacy to what lies behind it. Blankets of fur slipped carelessly, hanging from his bed. An opened large wooden chest was placed beside the lattice where Robb's armor was bundled up for safety. The iron glows, reflecting the flame. Robb rose from his seat behind the large wooden table to greet them. He was wearing a black gamison that features a strap and buckle front closure, handcrafted in heavy-duty cotton. His sword strapped to his hip by a brown leather scabbard. Thank you, Lady Brian, Oliver. They were left alone in the tent. Robb waved his hand at the empty chair across the table, where she sat silently, waiting. The fire from braziers at the corners of his tent was reflecting lights to Robb's eyes. She couldn't help but noticed how his presence always made her nervous. They sat across each other, separated by the wooden table, staring without a word. Have you eaten? He finally broke the silence. I have, Your Grace. He looked surprised by her answer. Of course, he kind of slumped in his chair, rubbing his temples with one hand. It was too late, then. I spent too much time taking care of things, I forgot the time. Of course, you already have your dinner. He cleared his throat. Silence fell on them once again, awkwardly. There was another smaller table at the far end of the tent, just next to one of the braziers. On it, she saw plates of untouched food and a jug of wine. It was a delicious soup, she told him, unable to hold back a smile. You should try it before it gets cold. This is very embarrassing. I was hoping for a no, I have not eaten, Your Grace, so I could lead you to that table, he confessed, smiling back. But, yes, I really forgot the time. You've eaten. Parchments, quills, and ink bottles lying on the large wooden table. Robb tidied a few before him, dropping parchments and maps into a straw basket under the table. I've sent ravens earlier, thanks to your input last night, he said softly. I hope in a few weeks I can get a reply. I still have to go ahead with my plan, though. Stannis is so close now. But we are also getting closer to Casterly Rock. I hope this war will soon be over so we can all go home. Your Grace, will any mediation take place? Are you thinking about Jaime Lannister and you? Robb forced a smile. Yes, I believe there will be parley. On my behalf, at least. When she didn't respond, he leaned to the table and whispered, Princess. What are you thinking about? What will happen to me? She blurted out the question without thinking. As I told you, I will bring you back to your kin. My family, they are in King's Landing. She dared not to ask further, fearing for what was in her mind and also in Robb's answer. Myrcella had realized Robb being in the Westerlands meant to break her grandfather's army into two,